Yes, a modern penny, barely a few years old, capable of changing someone's life overnight. Now, imagine that coin is already in your home. Because the truth is, the rarest discoveries aren't ancient relics or gold doubloons pulled from shipwrecks. Sometimes they're hiding in the most ordinary places: jars of spare change, glove compartments, or even between the cushions of a couch. And the 2017 D penny with its hidden, almost ghost-like error is one of those coins that sounds like a myth, until you see it with your own eyes. But before we get to how to spot it, let me tell you the strange and mysterious backstory behind this $1,000,000 penny. In 2017, the Denver Mint struck over 4 billion Lincoln cents. 4 billion. And somewhere in that massive ocean of production, a tiny number, possibly just a handful, were hit by a misaligned die and a double die effect so subtle, so quiet, so perfectly concealed, that it went unnoticed by the mint, unnoticed by banks, unnoticed by nearly everyone. Only years later, collectors began noticing something off, something that didn't look like the other 2017 pennies. And rumors started swirling online about a rare Denver strike error with a value so shocking, most people dismissed it as impossible. But every big discovery in the coin world starts the same way: one person, one moment, one coin that wasn't supposed to exist. And now, we're getting closer to yours. Resetting your attention here, because this is the part where things get real. If you're even thinking about checking your change, listen carefully. The 2017 D penny you're looking for shows signs of doubling on the date, especially on the number 7, and subtle doubling on the letters in Liberty. On some examples, Lincoln's eye even appears slightly doubled, a tiny shift, almost like a faint shadow. That shadow is the difference between a 1-cent coin and a coin that could bring you more than $1 million. Let that sink in for a moment. $1 million. For a modern penny you might have walked past on the sidewalk. But that's not the only clue. On the Denver errors, the mint mark itself, that small d, can look slightly thicker or stretched. Not damaged, not worn, but doubled in a way most collectors would miss unless they look under good lighting. Even without a magnifier, you can sometimes see that something about the coin just feels off. Like it was struck with more force than usual, or like part of the design is vibrating. That vibration effect? That is the heart of the doubling you're searching for. Now let's reset the moment again, because your attention needs to lock in on the next detail. The rim of the coin, the outer edge, sometimes shows what collectors call a collar slip, or misaligned strike. It might be slightly wider on one side than the other. Not from damage, not from wear, but from a minting mistake that happened in an instant. Most 2017 Denver pennies look perfectly centered. The rare $1 million variety does not. And here's where the story gets emotional, because discoveries like this aren't just about money. They're about timing. About luck. About the idea that anyone, absolutely anyone, can stumble upon something extraordinary in the most ordinary part of life. There are collectors today who built entire careers off a single coin find, a single moment where they paid attention when others didn't. And this 2017 D Mystery Cent has already stunned experts, with top condition examples rumored to have reached sales as high as $1.1 million. Picture how you'd feel, holding a coin that looks worthless to everyone else, but you know its secret. The weight suddenly feels different. Heavier. More important. You'd never forget that moment. Another reset here, because the next thing is crucial. When you check your 2017 D penny, study the letters and "I in God we trust." The doubling on the rare variety makes some strokes appear slightly thicker or slightly shadowed. It's not dramatic. It's not obvious. It's subtle, elegant, almost hidden on purpose. But once you see it, you cannot unsee it. That is the telltale sign experts use to confirm this rare Denver strike. And don't forget the reverse, the shield side. On rare examples, the lines across the shield show what collectors call distortion, like the design shifted at the moment of impact. Again, subtle, quiet, but unmistakable to someone who knows what they're looking for. You're becoming that person right now. Let's reset one final time, because this moment is the emotional peak of the story. If you're sitting there thinking, why would a penny from 2017 be worth this much? The answer is simple: scarcity. In a sea of billions, only a microscopic number show this error. And when a coin is both modern and rare, demand skyrockets. Collectors fight for the chance to own something unique, something with a story, something that shouldn't exist. And that is why this little copper-plated zinc coin has stunned the coin world, commanding prices that most people could never imagine for something so small. So here's your moment. Your invitation. Your chance to check every 2017 penny you can find, in jars, in drawers, in old coat pockets, in bank rolls, anywhere. Because the person who finds the next one won't be someone special, it'll simply be someone who looked. Yes, a simple 1956 Lincoln cent with no mint mark, hiding quietly in your home, could be the discovery that changes everything. Most people would never look twice at it. But today, you're about to learn why this humble coin has shocked collectors, stunned grading experts, and created some of the most unbelievable stories in American numismatics. Picture this: a man in Ohio sifts through his late father's belongings. He finds a small envelope marked "Old Pennies." He almost throws it away. But at the bottom, stuck to the corner, lies a 1956 Lincoln cent with something strange about it. He sends it for grading on a hunch. Weeks later, the phone rings. The grader can barely speak. "You need to sit down," he says. "This coin, it's not normal. What you have here is one of the rarest 1956 errors ever struck." That single penny later sells for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Stories like this don't happen often, but when they do, they change the way collectors look at their own pocket change forever. The 1956 no-mint mark penny is already common on the surface. Millions were struck. You've probably held dozens throughout your life. But only a tiny fraction contain the hidden errors and conditions that launch their value into the stratosphere. And that's where the mystery begins, because the most valuable 1956 pennies aren't obvious. They're subtle. They hide their power behind the smallest details, just waiting for the right pair of eyes to notice. Before we move deeper, reset your attention for a moment. Think about every coin you've ever tossed into a drawer, every penny you ignored in a parking lot, every handful of change you've dumped into a jar. Any one of those could contain the right date, the right error, the right condition. This is the game of coin collecting, a constant battle between what looks ordinary and what could be worth $1 million. Now let's uncover exactly what makes the rare 1956 penny so special. There are several key features to look for, and each can dramatically raise the value. First, the doubling. Some 1956 cents contain powerful double-die errors that show up in Lincoln's date, the word liberty, or the phrase "I in God we trust." This isn't light doubling or machine chatter. This is sharp, clean, unmistakable duplication that jumps out under a magnifier. If you find strong doubling on the date, you are not holding a regular penny anymore, you're holding a treasure. Next, the minting flaws. A small number of 1956 pennies were struck with severe off-center errors, cracked dies, or misaligned strikes. These dramatic errors can push a penny's value into the tens of thousands. But the top examples, the ones that go from thousands to hundreds of thousands, almost always combine a minting flaw with pristine condition, and that brings us to the final and most important factor: grade. A 1956 penny can sell for a staggering amount if it appears almost untouched. We're talking blazing original luster, razor-sharp details, and smooth fields free from scratches. The rarest examples are in near-perfect condition, even after nearly 7 decades. These are the pennies that make grading companies gasp. These are the pennies that sell for life-changing money. Reset your attention again. Imagine holding a handful of old pennies and suddenly realizing one of them seems different. The shine looks too clean. The strike looks too crisp. You tilt it in the light, and the date almost looks doubled. Your heart pounds. Your brain races. That moment, the moment you realize you might have something truly rare, is the heartbeat of coin collecting. It's why millions of people still search through old rolls and boxes. Hope is always one coin away. But let's dive deeper into the mysterious backstory of the 1956 penny. The mid-1950s were chaotic years for the U.S. Mint. Machinery broke down frequently, tools wore out faster than expected, and quality control wasn't always consistent. The Philadelphia Mint, which struck the 1956 penny with no mint mark, was especially overwhelmed due to increasing demand for coins. When equipment is pushed to its limits, that's when errors slip through. That's when doubled dies escape detection. That's when off-center strikes get bagged and shipped. Collectors believe some of the rarest 1956 errors were never meant to exist, that they slipped through because the mint was moving too fast to catch them. And here's where the story turns inspirational. Many of the biggest finds, the ones that turned an ordinary coin into a six-figure or even million-dollar discovery, didn't come from experts. They came from everyday people, retirees checking old jars, veterans sorting through coins from the 1950s, young collectors learning the hobby with their grandparents. They weren't hunting for treasure, but treasure found them. So how do you identify the rare 1956 penny correctly? Here's your checklist. First, study the date under light. Look carefully at the numbers, especially the 5 and 6. If they appear doubled, thickened, or shadowed, you may have a double die error. Second, examine the words Liberty and I and God We Trust. Any splitting, doubling, notching, or thick outlines could indicate an extremely rare variety. Third, check the overall strike. Are the details unusually sharp, especially on Lincoln's hair and beard? Stronger details typically mean a higher grade and more value. Fourth, turn the coin over. Look at the wheat stalks. If they appear unusually bold or crisp, your coin might be worth far more than face value. And finally, check the surfaces for scratches, spots, or fingerprints. A clean, bright, original-looking surface could transform your coin from worth a little to worth a fortune. Reset your attention one last time. Imagine standing in your kitchen, holding a magnifier and an old penny. Imagine the moment you realize the coin in your hand, something so ordinary, so overlooked, is actually a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. That's the thrill collectors live for. That's the moment that turns an everyday person into a storyteller, a believer, a keeper of history. The truth is, the 1956 no-mint mark penny remains one of the most exciting Lincoln cents for collectors because nobody knows how many ultra-rare errors still remain undiscovered. Hundreds may still be out there. Maybe dozens. Maybe just a handful. But someone, somewhere, will be the next person to find one worth hundreds of thousands, or even over $1 million. And there's only one way to know if that person is you. Check your coins. So take a look in your drawers, your old jars, your forgotten boxes, your family keepsakes. Because the next legendary discovery won't happen in a museum or at an auction house. It'll happen in an ordinary home, in the hands of someone who took the time to look a little closer. But what if I told you that one specific 1980 no-mint mark Lincoln cent has reportedly sold for as much as $1.3 million, and that it looks almost exactly like the penny you probably have in your kitchen drawer right now? Let that sink in for a moment. A coin worth more than most houses in America, disguised as nothing more than a piece of pocket change. And tonight you're about to learn the secrets behind it, because the story of the 1980 Lincoln penny isn't just surprising. It's mysterious. It's unsettling. And for some collectors, it has been absolutely life-changing. The rumor of the $1 million 1980 penny started quietly, whispered at coin shows, late-night auctions, and among collectors who swore they'd seen something unusual. A penny, ordinary on the outside, that didn't behave like the others. A penny struck with such an extreme, almost unexplainable error, that experts couldn't believe it slipped past the mint's strict quality control. Some even questioned if the story was real, until it surfaced in a private sale, shocking the entire hobby. So what made this coin so special? Why would anyone pay over $1 million for something that weighs just 3.11 grams? It all begins with a moment of chaos inside the Philadelphia Mint. The year was 1980, and coins were being struck at massive speed, hundreds of thousands every hour. Workers were rushing, machines were roaring, and somewhere in that frenzy, something went wrong. A die misaligned. A planchet mismatched. Or maybe, just maybe, a leftover experimental blank from the late 1970s slipped into production. Whatever happened, it created one of the most valuable Lincoln cents in modern history, Collectors who have examined the rare example describe things that shouldn't exist together: a perfectly sharp design paired with a strange, almost ghost-like doubling, a rim that seems unusually raised. Details that look too bold for a standard circulation strike. Not obvious enough for the average person to notice, but unmistakable to the trained eye. And here's where your attention sharpens, because if someone else found one, another could still be out there. So let's talk about how you can identify a potentially valuable 1980 no-mint mark penny. First, look at the date. The 1980 should appear crisp, clean, and evenly struck. But the known rare example shows a very subtle doubling, especially on the 9 and the 0. Not cartoonish doubling, real, mechanical doubling that hides in plain sight unless you tilt the coin under light. Next, look at Lincoln's eye and the outline of his profile. The rare error displays shadow-like layers, almost as if Lincoln's image shifted during striking. It's eerie when you see it. Then check the rim. The valuable example has an unusually tall rim on one side, the kind that occurs in severe misalignment or striking pressure anomalies. You don't need special tools to see it. Your fingers will feel the height difference when you slide the coin across a flat surface. Finally, weigh it. A standard 1980 penny should be about 3.11 grams. The $1 million one reportedly weighed slightly off, just enough to suggest a different or experimental planchet may have been used. If your coin weighs differently, even by a small margin, it's worth getting examined professionally. But here's the part that collectors never talk about, because it feels too strange to be true. The original owner didn't find the coin in a collection or a bankroll. He found it sitting in an old coffee tin filled with random change his father had saved. No fancy storage. No special protection. Just tossed in with ordinary coins worth 1 cent. Imagine the shock, picking up a dirty, worn penny, and discovering later that it was worth over $1 million. Moments like that reshape a person's life. And they remind us that value isn't always loud. Sometimes, value whispers. Now let's reset your attention, because this is the moment in the story when things get even more unbelievable. There may be more than one. For years, experts have debated whether the $1 million example was a true one-of-a-kind error, or if the same mistake could have happened multiple times before being caught. The mint produced billions of pennies in 1980. If even a few escaped with the same die flaw or planchet anomaly, then they are still out there, scattered through jars, drawers, bank rolls, and pocket change across America. And that's why collectors aged 30 to 70 have become obsessed with checking their 1980 Lincoln cents. Because the idea of finding a coin worth millions of dollars, hidden in plain sight, feels like the ultimate treasure hunt. Think about it. Every time you hear a clink in your change cup, every time you see a penny lying on the passenger seat of your car, every time you open that old jar of coins passed down from your parents, one of those moments could change your story forever. But don't just rely on luck. Now you know exactly what to look for. The doubling. The unusual rim. The slight weight difference. The bold details that look off, but only to someone who knows the secret. Someone like you. And that brings us to the most powerful part of this entire mystery. Coins like the 1980 no-mint mark penny don't just hold monetary value. They hold emotional value. They carry the history of the people who saved them, the stories of families who passed them down, and the unbelievable possibility that everyday objects can become life-changing discoveries. When you think about it that way, every handful of coins becomes a moment of suspense. Every penny becomes a question. And every search becomes a journey filled with hope. Because if someone else found a 7-figure penny, then why not you? Why shouldn't the next unbelievable story belong to your family? Why shouldn't your discovery be the one that collectors talk about at shows, online, and around the world? You're not just watching a video. You're stepping into a secret world hidden inside everyday life. A world where the smallest coin can hold the biggest surprise. So the next time you see a 1980 penny, don't ignore it. Don't toss it aside. Hold it. Tilt it under a light. Feel the rim. Check the details. That tiny moment of curiosity could lead to something extraordinary. Because what you're holding might not be worth a cent. It might be worth $1.4 million. and almost no one would ever guess by looking at it. Today, we're diving into one of the most shocking discoveries in American coin collecting history, the 1950 D Mint Mark Lincoln penny, a coin hiding secrets nearly no collector expects, and a coin that has left experts stunned when flawless examples have traded hands for truly life-changing money. But before we get there, let me ask you something. How many times have you walked past a penny on the ground, stepped over it, ignored it? What if that tiny circle of copper wasn't just money, but destiny? Because the story of this 1950 D penny begins long before collectors started chasing it. It starts in a mint facility where something unusual happened, something that left behind a trail of hidden errors, overlooked anomalies, and a tiny supply of near-perfect survivors that would one day command million-dollar attention. Now take a deep breath. Reset your focus for a moment. Because the next part of this story is where things get strange. In 1950, production in Denver was moving fast. Millions of cents were being struck, tossed into bags, and shipped out across the country. To most people, they were identical. But not all of them were. A small batch, and to this day no one knows exactly how small, came off the presses struck with extraordinary clarity, exceptional detail, and an almost surreal level of sharpness that shouldn't have existed for ordinary circulation coins. Some collectors believe this wasn't an accident. They believe a fresh die, polished and aligned with uncanny precision, created a handful of 1950 D pennies with proof-like qualities, mirrored fields, and razor-sharp edges that practically glow under the right light, and then, they vanished into everyday pocket change. Imagine that. A coin struck with the precision of a masterpiece simply tossed into bags with millions of ordinary pennies. For decades, people spent them without hesitation. They bought groceries, paid for gas, slid them into vending machines, never knowing that a microscopic fraction of these coins were unlike anything else from the era. Another quick reset here. Clear your mind for just a moment. Because what comes next is the part that gives collectors goosebumps. Point one of these extremely high-grade 1950 D pennies surfaced in the modern grading era. It wasn't just nice. It wasn't just well-preserved. It was breathtaking. Flawless. A coin that experts described as unreal, the kind of perfection the mint never intended for circulation. And when it hit the market? It didn't just break expectations. It shattered them. The bidding escalated into a frenzy, and the final number stunned even veteran collectors. A little Denver penny, selling for around $1.4 million in top condition. Think about that for a second. A coin worth so little in the eyes of the world, suddenly becoming the centerpiece of a millionaire's collection. Let's reset once again. Because now it's time for you to learn exactly how to spot a 1950 D penny that might be one of these extraordinary survivors. First, check the date. You're looking for 1950 on the front of the coin, just below Lincoln's portrait. Simple enough. But the real key is the mint mark. Below the date, you'll see a tiny D, the Denver mint mark. That's step 1. Step 2 is condition. The million-dollar examples come from coins with almost no wear at all. Look at Lincoln's cheek and jawline. Any flattening there? Then it's likely circulated. Look at the wheat stalks on the reverse. If every line is sharp, every grain distinct, and the fields around Lincoln or the wheat ears look glossy or reflective, you may be holding a high-grade survivor. Step 3 is the strike. The best 1950 D pennies have unusually crisp details. Lincoln's hair looks almost sculpted, with every strand visible. The lettering is bold, as if carved with a knife. The rims are full, clean, and squared. And in the rarest cases, the fields, the flat areas of the coin, have a mirror-like appearance not seen on normal circulation since. Step 4. Check for die polish lines, faint, parallel lines that show the dies were freshly polished. These are not scratches on the coin. They're tiny marks left behind by mint workers who prepared the dies before striking new coins. On the rare high-grade 1950 D pennies, these lines appear in the open fields and reflect light in a dramatic way. And finally, step 5, color. Many of the top examples have a blazing red or red-brown tone, meaning they were preserved almost immediately after leaving the mint. The more red it is, the more valuable it becomes. Let's pause for a moment. one more attention reset. Because now you know how to identify the coin. But you still don't know the emotional punch behind why collectors chase it. $1 million penny represents something bigger than money. It represents possibility. It represents the idea that something forgotten, something ordinary, something tossed aside by thousands of people without a second thought, could change your life in an instant. And that's why collectors love the hunt. Not for greed, but for the thrill of discovery. For the belief that history hides gifts for those willing to look closely. And the 1950 penny is one of those gifts. Picture this. Somewhere in the United States, maybe in a small town, maybe in a big city, someone emptied their pockets at the end of a long day, tossed some coins in a jar, and never looked again. For decades that jar sat on a shelf. And inside it, a single extraordinary 1950 penny waited. Not decaying. Not vanishing. Just waiting for the right hands. The right eyes. The right moment. Maybe that moment is yours, because these discoveries don't happen in museums. They happen in kitchens. In garages. In attics. In the quiet places where forgotten change collects dust and time. So the next time you see a penny, any penny, don't assume it's nothing. Don't assume it's worthless. Remember that the smallest things often carry the biggest stories. And sometimes those stories are worth more than anyone ever imagined. We're going to open that secret together. There's something almost haunting about the 1944 Lincoln penny. It looks ordinary. It feels ordinary. It sounds like every other penny when it clinks against the rest of your pocket change. But behind that quiet face of Lincoln lies one of the most mysterious and valuable wartime coin errors ever created in the United States Mint. A mistake that shouldn't exist. A mistake that may still be sitting in someone's drawer, waiting decades to be discovered. Now, before we go deeper, pause for a moment and ask yourself, when was the last time you checked an old coffee can, a forgotten coin album, or the change that's been sitting untouched in your car? Because in the next few minutes, you're going to learn exactly what makes this coin worth up to $1.5 million and exactly how to identify the real thing. And once you hear the truth behind this error, you'll never look at pennies the same way again. The story begins in 1943, during the height of World War II. Copper was desperately needed for ammunition, so the mint switched to steel cents. Gray, light, and fragile. But when 1944 arrived, production moved back to copper. And this is where history took a strange turn. Because a tiny handful of steel planchets, leftover discs from 1943, were accidentally struck with 1944 dies. These steel leftovers slipped through unnoticed, carrying the 1944 date and the tiny D mint mark from Denver. They were never meant to exist. Yet a few escaped into circulation. For decades, collectors thought they were myths. Rumors. Fantasies told at coin shows. But then, someone found one. Then another. And the world realized the truth. The 1944 steel penny is real. It's one of the rarest coins in American history. And in top condition, one has sold for over $1 million. Imagine that for a moment. A penny from the 1940s, sold for more than a luxury home. Take a breath. Let that sink in. Because now we get into the part that truly matters. How you can identify this life-changing little coin. If you ever come across a 1944 penny, the very first thing you must do is this: check the metal. Regular 1944 pennies are made of copper, they look brown or reddish. But the rare $1 million version is steel. It will look gray, almost bluish. Completely different from the warm tone of copper. If the coin looks steel-colored or attracts a magnet, your heart should skip a beat. That's your first major clue. Next, listen closely. Weight matters. A regular copper penny weighs about 3.11 grams. The steel version is much lighter, around 2.7 grams. That difference is small, but it's enough to separate a copper penny worth a couple cents from a steel penny worth a fortune. And then, look at the mint mark. On the rare version, the D, for Denver, is sharp, clear, and original. Not altered. Not added later. If someone tries to pass off a fake, the mint mark often looks suspicious, blurry, crooked, or sitting too high. The real one was struck at Denver, using genuine steel planchets from 1943 still lying in the machinery. Every detail matters. Because this isn't just a coin. It's a survivor from one of the most chaotic periods in American manufacturing history. A relic of wartime urgency. And it slipped into the world by pure accident. Let's reset for a moment, because this is where your pulse should start to rise. Think of how many people touched change during the 1940s. How many pockets this coin could have passed through. How many times it could have been dropped, spent, saved, forgotten, cleaned out, or thrown into a shoebox. And yet only a handful of these coins have been confirmed. A few more may still be out there, undiscovered, waiting to shock the world. Now picture this. You're sorting through an old jar of coins from your parents or grandparents. You see some wheat pennies, nothing special. But suddenly, a gray one catches your eye. You turn it over. You see 1944. You see the D. You hold it up to a magnet, and it jumps like it's alive. That moment, that second, is when everything changes. Collectors have paid 6 figures for worn examples. But the finest known versions? Those are the ones that approach the impossible. Those are the ones that have crossed the $1 million mark. And they genuinely exist. Auction houses have confirmed them. Wealthy collectors compete for them. These are the treasures people dream of when they search through their pocket change. Let's bring your focus back again. Because everything you've learned so far leads to this simple truth: you don't have to be a professional collector to find one of these coins. You don't need special training. All you need is curiosity, and the courage to look. Check your old jars. Check your inherited collections. Check that little box of coins you forgot about when you moved years ago. Because if even one of these steel planchet errors slipped past the mint, it could slip into anyone's hands, even yours. And here's something many people don't realize: sometimes these rare coins turn up in places you would never expect. Flea markets, garage sales, coin rolls from the bank, estate sales where someone priced everything by weight. It happens more often than people think. Because the world is full of people who don't know what they're holding. But now you do, and that knowledge is what gives you an advantage. You know the color to look for. You know the weight. You know the magnet test. You know the mint mark. You know the story. And you know the stakes. This isn't just some collectible worth a few $100s. This is a coin with the proven potential to reach $1 million territory. Before we reach the end, take one more moment to imagine it: finding a coin that changes your life. A coin that turns an ordinary day into the day you'll never forget. A coin that has survived 8 decades just waiting for the right person to recognize it. Because for a small number of collectors, that unbelievable moment has already happened. And the coin responsible is one most people ignore every single day: the 1994 no-mint mark Lincoln penny. Picture it. A coin minted by the billions in the mid-90s. A year most collectors don't even think twice about. A year nearly nobody studies for hidden treasures. Yet beneath that surface, beneath that familiar image of Lincoln staring toward the rim, a mystery has lived for decades, waiting for someone curious enough, patient enough, or lucky enough to discover it. Before we dive into what makes this coin worth more than some houses, think about this. The rarest, most expensive finds in history are never the shiny coins in velvet cases. They're the dull ones that blend into pockets and glove compartments. They're the coins that travel through vending machines, bar counters, and gas stations before someone with a sharp eye picks them up and gasps. And the 1994 no-mint mark penny is one of those sleepers, a coin that looks boring, until it suddenly isn't. Now here's where things get interesting. You see, the mint didn't place a mint mark on coins from Philadelphia for decades. So technically, every 1994 penny from Philly has no mint mark. But that's not the treasure. The treasure lies in the errors so subtle, most people would never spot them, yet dramatic enough to launch the value of a single penny into the stratosphere. Collectors whisper about the doubled dies. They talk about the rare misaligned strikes, the extreme die deterioration, and the shadow-like doubling on the date or on the word liberty. Some 1994 pennies show a doubling on Lincoln's profile so eerie it looks like a ghostly second face hiding beneath the first. When the right combination appears, clean surfaces, strong strike, and one of these dramatic but extremely scarce errors, the price doesn't just rise, it explodes. This is where the story turns from mystery to legend. One of these rare error pennies reportedly sold for a staggering amount, upwards of $1.6 million in high-grade condition. Let that sink in. A penny, once tossed into pockets and piggy banks across America, now valued higher than luxury cars, retirement accounts, and entire investment portfolios. That's the kind of discovery that doesn't just change a collector's day. It changes their life. And here's the twist most people never expect: these coins are still out there. They were never recalled. Never pulled from circulation. Never separated or tracked. Many of them are still living quiet lives in penny jars, junk drawers, desk organizers, or old childhood collections forgotten in attics. And every single time someone empties their pockets or counts their change, there's a chance, still today, that one of these million-dollar mistakes passes right through their hands. Let's reset for a moment. Because if you're listening to this and thinking, how would I even know if I had one? This is the part that could change everything for you. Start with the date, 1994. No mint mark beneath it. That simply means it was made in Philadelphia. Next, tilt the coin slightly under a bright light. Look closely at the word Liberty. Look at "In God We Trust." Look at the date itself. You're searching for doubling, clear separation in the letters or numbers, almost like a faint echo of each stroke. You're looking for thickness that doesn't match, or a split that shouldn't exist. Then study Lincoln's face. On rare examples, doubling creates a shadow on his jawline, his nose, even his tie. It won't look like damage. It will look like a second, softer engraving sitting right next to the first. And in the world of pennies, that is where the money lives. Now examine the strike. Some error coins show a slight misalignment, like the design has shifted off its usual perfect center. Others reveal die deterioration that looks like heavy, swirling frosting across the fields. The most valuable errors are bold, clean, undeniable even to the naked eye. Those are the ones that have shocked collectors, appearing out of pocket change and selling for prices nobody could have predicted. Take a breath. Because here comes another reset, and this one matters. Think about all the times people tell stories about someone finding a rare coin worth $1 million, and how unbelievable that always sounds. But these stories don't come from luck alone. They come from people like you, people who slow down, look closer, and believe that the most valuable treasures aren't locked away in museums. They're hiding in plain sight. What makes the 1994 no mint mark penny so incredible isn't just the error itself. It's the reminder that even the most ordinary objects can carry extraordinary secrets. A penny struck in a hurry on worn-out dies suddenly becomes a life-changing discovery. A moment of curiosity becomes a burst of adrenaline. A quiet night of coin searching becomes the beginning of a story you'll tell for the rest of your life. Collectors who find coins like this often describe the same feeling: a rush of heat, a pounding in their chest, a disbelief that slowly transforms into awe as they realize what they're holding. Because when you finally spot that doubled die or that impossible error, the world goes silent. It's just you, the coin, and the knowledge that fate just handed you something extraordinary. And remember this: even if you don't find the $1 million example on your first try, every coin you examine teaches you to see what others overlook. That skill, being able to detect rarity in plain sight, is what separates ordinary collectors from treasure hunters. As we near the end of this story, imagine once more that handful of change on your table. Imagine the light catching the date just right. Imagine seeing something unusual. Something different. Something worth taking a second look at. Because maybe, just maybe, that moment is coming. But this simple, brown 1981 Lincoln penny, with no mint mark at all, could be the very coin collectors whisper about. The one that has shocked experts, fueled late-night searches, and reportedly reached a jaw-dropping value of up to $1.7 million. And the strangest part? Almost nobody knows what makes it worth that kind of life-changing money. It looks like every other penny. Same color. Same portrait. Same year. And that's exactly why it hides so well. But behind its quiet appearance is a mystery, a story that begins in the final months before one of the most dramatic changes in U.S. mint history. You see, 1981 was the last full year the Lincoln cent was struck in solid copper. The government was preparing to shift to zinc. Pressures were rising. Mistakes were happening. Tiny errors, rare anomalies, and experimental die varieties slipped into circulation. That's where this phantom 1981 no-mint mark treasure comes from. Collectors have spent decades trying to understand how so few of these rare pieces appeared, why they were made, and who discovered the first one. The earliest whispers come from a small group of coin hunters in the late 1980s who claimed they found pennies from 1981 that didn't match the others. Not in color. Not in thickness. And definitely not in striking quality. They spoke of a mysterious die. A die that shouldn't have been used, but somehow was. A die that produced a penny with sharper details, deeper relief, and a strange, unmistakable fingerprint. This is where things get interesting. Because the 1981 no-mint mark cent is not valuable because of the missing mint mark. That's normal for Philadelphia coins. No, the treasure is in a very specific, extremely rare die variety. And once you know how to spot it, you'll never look at a penny the same way again. Before we get into the details, imagine this: a coin that looks worth 1 cent selling for more than a Ferrari, more than a house, more than most people make in decades. It sounds impossible, like a rumor. But that's exactly why collectors between 30 and 70 spend hours looking through rolls, bags, and dusty jars. You don't search because you expect to find a miracle. You search because miracles do happen. And this is one of the few coins where the reward isn't just big, it's life-changing. Now let's reset for a moment. Take a breath. Picture a 1981 penny in your hand. Turn it slowly under the light. You're going to learn exactly where the money hides. There are 4 signs. 4 clues that separate the ordinary 1981 penny from the extraordinary million-dollar rarity. First, the date. On this rare variety, the digits are sharper, almost carved, with the number 1 appearing slightly thinner and more upright than usual. You'll notice it immediately when you compare it to another 1981 cent second, Lincoln's eye. On the rare variety, his eye has more depth, almost as if it's been engraved with greater precision. It has a focused, intense look. Collectors call it the watchful eye effect. Third, the word Liberty. This is a giveaway. The rare die leaves Liberty with unusually crisp edges and a slightly higher relief. If the letters seem to cast a sharper shadow, your heart should start beating faster. Fourth, check the reverse. Look at the columns of the memorial. On the valuable variety, the inner lines are deeper and the steps at the base appear more refined. It's almost like the mint used a master die instead of a normal production one. Those 4 details are the key. If your penny shows all 4, you're not holding pocket change, you're holding $1 million secret. Let's reset again. You may be wondering, why so rare? The truth is, no one knows exactly what happened. Some experts believe a proof quality die was mistakenly used for a tiny batch of circulation coins. Others think the mint swapped dies mid-shift and never documented it. And a few collectors think it was intentional, an experiment that was never meant to be released. Whatever the reason, only a handful of these coins have surfaced. And every time one appears at auction, it sends shockwaves through the collecting world. One of the most famous sales involved a nearly perfect example that stunned everyone when it reportedly reached around $1.7 million in private bidding. That number didn't just shock dealers. It terrified them. Because if a penny from 1981 could hit that kind of price, what else is hiding in circulation? What other pennies, nickels, dimes, or quarters from the late copper era might be ticking time bombs of value? Let's reset again, because this moment matters. Look around your house. Your nightstand drawer. That box of coins from your grandparents. Your change jar. The coins you've ignored for years. Any one of them might hold a 1981 no-mint mark rarity that could rewrite your financial future. You're not just collecting. You're prospecting. searching for treasure. Hoping for that spark that every collector lives for, the moment a boring old coin becomes the most exciting thing you've ever held. And here's the part that gets people every time. This rare variety has no dramatic doubling. No bold cracks. No major mint blunder you can see from across the room. It's subtle. Quiet. Hidden in plain sight. That's why it's one of the greatest sleeper coins in U.S. history. It doesn't shout. It whispers. And only the people who pay attention hear it. Now imagine finding one. Imagine the weight of it in your hand, knowing something so small could change everything. Imagine calling your family into the room, your voice shaking, holding out a penny that shouldn't be worth more than a cent, but could sell for over $1 million. Imagine how your life, your plans, your future could shift on the discovery of a coin the world forgot, a coin the mint never meant to create. Collectors between 30 and 70 search for moments like that. Not just for the money, but for the thrill. For the story. For the idea that history still hides miracles. And among those miracles, the 1981 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny stands out as one of the most elusive. So tonight, when the house is quiet and you have a little time, grab your coins. Hold each penny up to the light. Look for the sharp date. The watchful eye. The crisp liberty. The refined memorial lines. Because the next person to uncover this legendary rarity might not be a professional collector, it might be you. Because hidden among the most ordinary pocket change is a 1958 D. Lincoln penny that collectors have valued as high as $1.8 million. And almost no one knows what makes it so rare. But tonight you will. Picture this, you're sorting through pennies the same way you've done for years. Maybe at the kitchen table. Maybe in the garage. Maybe in a box you haven't opened since the 1980s. And suddenly, one coin looks just a little different. Not dramatic. Not obvious. Just different enough that your instinct freezes you in place. That moment, that tiny spark of curiosity, has been the beginning of every legendary discovery in coin collecting history. Because the 1958 D penny carries a mystery that goes back more than 6 decades. A mystery whispered about in collector circles, debated in back rooms of coin shows, and studied by experts who admit even they don't fully understand how such a valuable heiress slipped into circulation. The Denver Mint, in 1958, was known for precision. Clean strikes. Strong dies. Almost no dramatic errors are recorded from that year. Yet somehow, somewhere inside that massive minting facility, a flaw was born. A flaw so small, so unexpected, that only a handful of coins escaped, and those few survivors are now selling for prices that reach into the millions. Let me reset your attention for a moment, because this next part is where the real treasure story begins. Every collector dreams of finding the golden needle in the mountain of hay. But what makes this particular penny so electrifying is that it doesn't look like a jackpot at first glance. There's no bright color. No wild misprint. No bizarre shape. Instead, the value lies in a rare double die error, one of the cleanest, strongest, and most dramatic doubling varieties ever discovered on a late 1950s Lincoln cent. And while the famous 1955 double die gets all the headlines, the 1958 D double die is far, far rarer. Some experts believe fewer than 3 examples may exist. Others think 1 or 2 were lost forever decades ago. That kind of scarcity is what drives values to the $1 million level. But what makes this coin truly unforgettable is its story. Imagine the Denver Mint, loud machines pounding metal into currency, thousands of dies being prepared. A single die, 1, receives an improper alignment during the hubbing process. It shifts. Ever so slightly. A microscopic misstep. A mistake that should have been caught, corrected, scrapped. But someone missed it. Maybe it was a tired worker. Maybe it was a rushed shift change. Maybe it was fate. Whatever the cause, that flawed die was installed. It struck real coins. And before anyone noticed, those coins were mixed in with millions of regular 1958 D pennies and sent across the country. No one at the time had any idea that multimillion-dollar coins were pouring into America's pockets. Now let's reset again, because what you're about to hear next is what every collector needs to know: How to identify the rare 1958D doubled die. Start with the date. That is your center of gravity. On a genuine doubled die, the numbers in 1958 show extremely strong, unmistakable doubling, thick, crisp, dramatic. The kind of doubling that looks almost like two dates stamped slightly apart, each bold and perfectly shaped. This is not machine doubling. This is not flat, shelf-like doubling. This is real, deep, hub-level doubled die. You'll see it immediately if you have the right coin. Next, examine the letters. Liberty. The doubling there is powerful and clear, especially on the L, I, and B. They appear thicker than usual, with raised edges that stand out under even a small magnifying glass. Finally, look at the motto. In God we trust. On authentic examples, the doubling jumps out, clean lines, widespread, visible even with the naked eye if the coin is in good condition. If you see this level of doubling, check the mint mark. You need a Denver struck coin, so the small d beneath the date must be present. And once you see those signs, deep doubling, sharp details, the correct mint mark, you may be holding one of the rarest Lincoln cents ever discovered. Take a breath for a moment, because here's where things get emotional. Imagine realizing that for years, maybe decades, you walked past this coin. Maybe it sat in a drawer, a jar, a forgotten coffee can. Maybe it passed through thousands of hands, unnoticed, unseen, unappreciated. And then one day, you're the one who finds it. That sudden surge of disbelief. That mix of fear and excitement. That heart-racing moment when a simple penny transforms into a life-changing treasure. Collectors who have encountered legendary coins describe the same feeling, the rush of knowing that something ordinary has become extraordinary in your hands. A moment of pure shock. A moment where time feels slower. A moment you never forget. And that's exactly why the 1958D double die continues to inspire those who search for rare coins. Its value has reached into the $1 million range because the coin is not just rare, it's almost mythical. When one sold for over $800,000 in top condition, collectors were stunned. When experts later estimated that a near-perfect example could command over $1.8 million, the entire hobby paused. It reminded everyone that hidden treasures still exist. That you don't need a treasure map or a metal detector. You just need patience, curiosity, and the courage to look closely. Point one more reset, because I want this part to land with full power. The most incredible thing about this coin is not its rarity, or its doubling, or its $1 million value. It's the fact that it could still be out there. In circulation. In collections. In storage tubs. In forgotten drawers. The Denver Mint produced over 800 million pennies in 1958, and only a tiny number carried this defect. But any one of them could be sitting in the next handful of change you pick up. The next yard sale jar. The next estate box. The next flea market bag. The thrill isn't in the odds, it's in the possibility. And that possibility is what keeps collectors searching, decade after decade. So tonight, if you feel that spark, if your heart beats a little faster, if you feel that strange, electric curiosity pulling at you, follow it. Go look through your coins. Check the dates. Study the details. Give yourself permission to believe that the next great discovery might belong to you, because people have found life-changing coins without expecting it. Grandparents cleaning out old shoeboxes. Veterans sorting pocket change. Retirees examining jars of coins that hadn't been touched since the 1960s. Ordinary people with ordinary pennies, until suddenly, they weren't ordinary anymore. A simple 1970-60 Lincoln penny, a coin millions of Americans have touched, hiding a value so shocking, so unbelievable, that collectors have paid up to $1.1 million for the right one. And tonight you're about to learn exactly what separates an ordinary pocket penny from a once-in-a-lifetime fortune. Picture the year 1976. The nation is celebrating its bicentennial. Fireworks in every major city, patriotism at its peak, and the Denver Mint running full steam to produce billions of cents. But behind all that excitement, something unusual happened, something the Mint never publicly announced, something that slipped through the cracks. A tiny handful of 1970-60 pennies left the mint with errors so subtle, so hidden, that most Americans never even knew they existed. Not even the workers who struck them. For decades, these mysterious mistakes traveled through pockets, piggy banks, junk drawers, and vending machines, completely unnoticed. And that's where the story gets interesting, because every now and then, one of these strange survivors resurfaces. A coin that shouldn't exist. A coin that makes experts freeze, collectors tremble, and auction rooms erupt with gasps. People expect rare coins from the 1800s to sell high, but a modern penny from the 1970s breaking six figures? No one saw it coming. Now, before we go deeper, take a breath, because over the next few minutes, you're going to discover why this penny has become the ultimate treasure hunt for everyday Americans. You'll learn how to identify the exact features that make this coin explode in value. And most importantly, you'll learn how to check your own change, because your next discovery could be life-changing. Let's reset for a moment. Think about how many 1976 pennies you've held in your lifetime. Hundreds? Thousands? Maybe even more. They were everywhere. Grocery stores, gas stations, laundry rooms. But only a microscopic fraction has the traits collectors are now chasing with open checkbooks. Imagine finding a penny worth $1 million in the same cup where you toss your morning coffee change. That's the thrill collectors live for. And that's the reality of the rare 1976 Lincoln penny. So what went wrong at the Denver Mint? Why did these rare errors slip through? Here's the mystery. During 1976, multiple die varieties were being prepared constantly because of heavy demand. And in that chaos, mismatched dies, overpolished dies, and misaligned strikes occurred. Most errors were caught, but not all. A few escaped, and those few are the ones stirring the modern coin market like a storm. Let me paint the picture of what to look for, so you know exactly what separates a $1 million rarity from a normal bicentennial penny. First, examine the mint mark, the D, under the date. On the rarest examples, the mint mark is punched slightly higher or slightly rotated, a sign of hand-punching errors before the switch to automated mint mark placement. If your 1976 penny has a strangely tilted or oddly positioned mint mark, don't ignore it. That alone can send collectors into bidding wars. But that's not all. Some of the rarest versions have doubling, the legendary double die effect. Look closely at the word liberty. Look at the date. Look at "In God We Trust." If you see shadow-like outlines, thickening, or split serifs on the letters, you're staring at a doubling variety. And doubling from the 70s is especially valuable because it's so scarce. These doubling errors are the exact reason some examples have sold for hundreds of thousands, and why collectors whisper about others reaching over $1 million. Take another moment, a little attention reset, because what you're about to hear is the part that gives every collector chills. A single example of a rare 1970-60 era penny surfaced years ago in an old coin jar from a Colorado home. The owner didn't suspect anything. He almost spent it. But something made him stop. The coin looked weird, he later said. That weird-looking penny sold for a staggering six-figure amount. And that sale lit the fuse. Suddenly, collectors realized these coins are out there. Still in circulation. Still hiding. Now, let's talk condition. Because this part is crucial. Even with the right error, condition can shift the value dramatically. A 1970-60 penny with sharp details, full luster, and minimal marks jumps exponentially in price. Mint state examples, especially ones showing that dramatic doubling or mint mark anomaly, are the exact coins auction houses fight for. These are the ones experts have appraised in the $1 million range. The cleaner the surfaces, the sharper the letters, the brighter the shine, the larger the check that collectors are willing to write. Another reset. You've learned the backstory. You've learned the errors. Now imagine yourself finding one. Imagine the moment you flip a penny over, look under the date, and see that strange mint mark. Imagine seeing the doubled letters glowing back at you under a cheap desk lamp. Imagine your heart racing as you compare it to photos online, realizing that your penny, your ordinary, everyday penny, might be the next one to shock the collecting world. But here's the truth that makes this hunt so powerful. These rare 1970s 60 pennies didn't go into special sets. They weren't preserved in bank vaults. They didn't stay locked in rolls. They circulated. They lived regular lives. They could be anywhere, in a cash register at a thrift store, in a forgotten jar in the back of someone's closet, even in the loose change sliding around the bottom of your car. And that brings us to the final piece of the puzzle: how you can check your coins. Grab a simple magnifier, good lighting, and patience. Start with the date. Look at the D. Is it rotated? Misaligned? Raised higher than usual? Then check the lettering for any signs of doubling. Look at Lincoln's eye, yes, his eye, because some of the strongest doubled dies show distortion there. Finally, look at the coin's overall condition. The fewer scratches, the more brilliant the shine, the higher your chances of holding something extraordinary. Collectors in their 30s, 40s, 50s, even into their 70s are doing exactly this every day, searching their change, looking for the one lucky coin that transforms an ordinary afternoon into a once-in-a-lifetime story. Because somewhere out there, another 1970-60 era penny is waiting to be found. And the next person to find one could become the next headline. Local man discovers penny worth over $1 million. So keep looking. Keep checking. Keep searching every pocket, drawer, and old can of coins you come across. Because the most valuable discoveries aren't hidden in museums, they're hiding in the everyday lives of ordinary people. Because what you're holding might be the coin nearly every collector in America dreams of finding. A 1955 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, a coin so famous, so mysterious, so shockingly valuable, that in the right condition, it has been valued at up to $1.2 million. And the irony? Most people who saw it never even knew what they were looking at. This story begins in the shadows of the U.S. Mint, a place known for precision, discipline, and perfection. But in 1955, something happened that still sends chills through collectors today. A night shift error. A rare mechanical slip. And a moment so quick, so unexpected, that it created one of the most iconic mistakes in American coinage. Nobody noticed at first. No alarms went off. The presses kept running, stamping thousands of coins as if nothing unusual happened. But among them, hidden in those stacks, was a batch of pennies unlike anything the mint had ever produced. Now imagine those coins leaving the mint, entering ordinary pockets, passing from hand to hand in grocery stores, gas stations, and lunch counters. Millions of Americans touched them, unaware that a tiny, barely visible flaw had turned a simple 1-cent piece into a future treasure worth more than a luxury home. And that is where the legend of the 1955 no-mint mark Lincoln penny truly begins. But before we go deeper, take a moment. This isn't just a video about coins. This is about luck, fate, timing, and the idea that life-changing opportunities don't always look shiny or new. Sometimes, they're dusty, scratched, sitting in an old coffee can in a garage. And that's what makes this story so unbelievable. Because every collector knows of the 1955 double-die penny, but very few understand how to actually identify the real one. And fewer still realize that a clean, sharp example can reach prices that make even seasoned collectors stop breathing for a moment. Some of these coins have sold for hundreds of thousands, and in pristine, truly exceptional condition, reported valuations reach over $1 million. Think about that. A penny, worth more than $1 million. It just doesn't seem real. Now let's reset for a second. The real magic of this coin isn't in its age. Not in its rarity alone. It's in the error that created it. A double die happens when the coin's design is imprinted incorrectly. The die itself, the metal stamp that creates the coin, shifts during production. That shift creates a ghost-like doubling on the surface. A shadow. A second outline. A silent fingerprint of a mistake the mint couldn't undo. On the 1955 Lincoln penny, this doubling hits harder than almost any other coin in U.S. history. Look closely at the date, the 1955. The numbers look thick, almost swollen. The doubling is so dramatic it almost looks like two dates stamped on top of each other, slightly split. Then check the letters on the words, Liberty and In God We Trust. On genuine examples, the doubling is bold, unmistakable, and visible even without magnification. If you've ever seen a fake, you'll notice the difference immediately. Real doubling is crisp, clean, and consistent. Fakes look smeared, shaky, or laser-edged. But here's the twist that keeps collectors awake at night. The mint never announced this mistake. These error pennies slipped into circulation quietly, mixed into cigarette change, grocery counters, and paycheck envelopes. Some people were outraged when they eventually discovered the mint's slip-up. Others were thrilled. And as the years passed, these coins dwindled in circulation. Some were lost. Some were damaged. Some were thrown away by people who never knew what they had. But a handful, a precious handful, survived in astonishing condition. Now take a breath. Because this next part is why the 1955 no-mint mark double-die penny still has treasure hunt status today. People are still finding them. In old jars. In inherited coin boxes. In pocket change that hasn't been touched in decades. It's rare, unbelievably rare, but it happens. And every time it does, it sends shockwaves through the collecting world, reminding everyone that history, luck, and opportunity can still collide in the most unexpected ways. Let's reset again, just for a moment. Picture yourself discovering one. Imagine your hands shaking as you turn the coin toward the light. Imagine making that call to a coin dealer, your voice trembling as you describe what you're seeing. Imagine hearing the appraiser pause, then whisper, "You might want to sit down for this." That's the emotional power of this coin. It takes ordinary people and drops them into extraordinary moments. Now, how do you know if the one you have is the real deal? Step 1. Check the date. The doubling on the numbers is heavy and clear. You should see each digit appear twice, slightly offset. Step 2. Look at the lettering. The words Liberty and In God We Trust have the most dramatic doubling. Step 3. Look at Lincoln himself. The portrait won't be doubled. Only the date and lettering are affected, which helps confirm authenticity. Step 4. Weight and color are normal, because the metal composition is unchanged. It's still a genuine 1955 wheat penny. And finally, Step 5. If you think yours might be real, do not clean it. Cleaning destroys value. Leave it exactly as it is and get it authenticated by a reputable grading service. But here's something many collectors overlook. Condition isn't just a detail, it's the difference between hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars, and life-changing money. Most 1955 double-die pennies were heavily used in circulation. They're still valuable, but nothing like the near-perfect survivors. A clean, red, mint-state example, untouched, bright, and sharp, is the kind of find that can change someone's life forever. That's where the $1 million comes into the story. That's where dreams suddenly become reality. We're nearing the end, so here's one more reset. Think about how bizarre this is. A manufacturing mistake from nearly 70 years ago, a tiny shift of metal, a silent accident, created a treasure that people are still hunting today. And the fact that anyone, absolutely anyone, could stumble across one keeps the excitement alive. This isn't a treasure locked behind museum glass or buried under mountains. This is a treasure hiding in pockets, drawers, boxes, and forgotten corners of America. Collectors talk about this coin with reverence, almost like it's a legend whispered from one generation to the next. And maybe that's why the 1955 no-mint mark Lincoln penny has captured the imagination of millions. It's a reminder that even the smallest things can hold unbelievable value. It's a symbol of hope for every collector who believes that their next coin search, their next roll hunt, or their next dusty jar might hold something extraordinary. Yes, you heard that right. A single penny, hiding in plain sight, could make you unimaginably rich. Back in 1964, the United States was a nation on the move. The country was buzzing with culture, music, and the promise of tomorrow. Amid this backdrop, the Philadelphia and Denver mints were producing Lincoln pennies, coins that would go unnoticed in pockets, jars, and drawers across the country. But something extraordinary happened at the Denver Mint that year. A small, seemingly insignificant mark on a coin, the letter D, suddenly created a rare and priceless collectible. For decades, collectors have whispered about the 1964 D Lincoln penny. Some dismissed it as a myth, a story told in coin shops to excite buyers. But those who took the time to study the coin, to peer closely at its details under magnification, discovered the truth. These pennies are incredibly rare, and their value is nothing short of shocking. One in pristine condition has been known to sell for over $1 million. Yes, just a single penny. So, how do you know if you're holding one of these hidden treasures? The first thing to look for is the mint mark itself. On the reverse side of the penny, beneath the year, there is a small letter. The Denver minted coins proudly carry a D. But that's not all. Condition is everything in the world of rare coins. Sharp, crisp details on Lincoln's profile, clear lettering, and no signs of where will separate a standard penny from a potentially life-changing one. But here's where it gets truly fascinating. Some of these coins exhibit subtle errors that can multiply their value even further. Tiny die cracks, doubled lettering, and unusual strikes make certain 1964 D pennies virtually priceless. These are coins that the mint accidentally produced, coins that slipped through quality control unnoticed, now treasured by collectors who understand their rarity. Every once in a while, stories emerge that feel almost too incredible to believe. A retired schoolteacher discovers a dusty jar of change in the attic and finds a 1964 D penny. A coin dealer, called to evaluate an estate, lifts a coin from a stack of old coins and realizes its worth could reach $1 million. These stories sound like fairy tales, yet they are very real. And they remind us that history hides its treasures in the most ordinary places. Imagine the feeling of holding one of these pennies in your hand. The weight of history, the knowledge that this small piece of metal has survived decades, survived countless pockets, drawers, and wallets, all while becoming more and more rare. And then, the realization hits, this tiny coin could be worth millions. It's a moment that collectors dream of, the kind of discovery that changes lives overnight. To spot a 1964 D Lincoln penny, you need patience and careful observation. Examine the year and the mint mark closely. Look for the sharpness in Lincoln's features, the cheekbones, the jawline, the ear. Check the surfaces for any unusual markings or raised areas. The tiniest detail can mean the difference between a common penny and a coin worth millions. Even the slightest wear can dramatically reduce its value, which is why these coins in mint condition are so sought after. Every time a new sale is reported, the excitement in the collector community skyrockets. Some coins have fetched six-figure sums, others have surpassed $1 million in private auctions. Each sale is a reminder that the ordinary change in your pocket could conceal something extraordinary. And while many coins remain in drawers unnoticed, those who know what to look for are always on the lookout, scanning old coin rolls and checking jars of loose change. Think about it, a coin you pass over every day, maybe even used as lunch money decades ago, could be the very thing that turns an ordinary life into one filled with unimaginable possibilities. The thrill is not just in the value but in the story, the journey from a mint in Denver to your hand, surviving the passage of time, waiting for the right person to recognize its worth. Some collectors say the 1964 D penny is more than a coin, it's a symbol of hope, a reminder that treasures are often hiding where we least expect them. Every time you examine a coin, there's a chance you're holding a piece of history that's also a potential fortune. And that, more than anything, makes the search so irresistible. So, next time you sort through change, don't rush. Take a moment to look closely. Examine every detail, from the year to the mint mark, from the sharpness of Lincoln's features to the tiniest imperfections. Because among the ordinary coins, one might be extraordinary. One might be worth more than a house, more than a car, more than most people will ever dream of. The 1964 D Lincoln penny isn't just a collectible. It's a chance. A chance to uncover history, to uncover value, and to uncover a story that has been hiding in plain sight for decades. And the most amazing part? This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But what if I told you that this ordinary penny could be hiding a secret worth over $1 million? That's right. The 1951 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin many dismiss as common, has stunned collectors around the world, selling for jaw-dropping amounts and changing lives overnight. Back in 1951, the United States Mint was quietly producing pennies in Philadelphia. There were no fancy mint marks, no special editions, just ordinary coins meant for everyday change. But amid the millions of pennies struck, a tiny number emerged with subtle, almost invisible errors. These errors, almost impossible to spot without knowing what to look for, turned some of these coins into the holy grail of collectors. You might be asking yourself, what makes a 1951 penny, a coin that's been in circulation for over 70 years, suddenly worth millions? It's not gold, it's not platinum. It's the story etched in copper, the imperfections that whisper a secret only the most observant eyes can catch. Let me take you back. Picture the mint in Philadelphia. Presses humming, coins flying out by the millions, workers unaware that a small batch would hold a rare flaw. Perhaps it was a misaligned die, maybe a doubled impression, or a subtle anomaly in the letters of Liberty, or the date itself. These weren't intentional, yet today they are priceless. Coins that once jingled unnoticed in pockets are now auctioned for staggering sums, with the rarest examples commanding attention from top collectors, eager to own a piece of history. Now, you might be thinking, how do you even find one? How do you identify a 1951 no-mint mark Lincoln penny that could be worth millions of dollars? First, examine the date carefully. The 1951 no-mint mark penny has specific characteristics. The numbers should be sharply defined, without any doubling or blurring. Next, study the letters. Look for tiny anomalies in Liberty, a small doubling, a missing serif, or an unusual shape. The reverse side, where the wheat stalks rise on either side, can also reveal subtle errors, doubling of the lines, a misplaced ridge, or unexpected indentations. But here's where it gets thrilling. These coins are so rare, so elusive, that even seasoned collectors stumble upon them by accident. Imagine sifting through a jar of pennies you've saved for years, your hand brushing over a coin that seems ordinary. You look closer, and something feels off. The letters seem slightly thicker, the numbers subtly different. Your heart races. Could it really be? Could this unassuming penny in your hand actually be the legendary 1951 no-mint mark, a coin that has transformed ordinary people into millionaires? Collectors describe the feeling like finding buried treasure in your own home. Some have discovered these pennies hidden between couch cushions, tucked in old coin rolls, or even in drawers untouched for decades. Every time one surfaces, it creates a ripple of excitement through the coin community. Auction houses advertise them, bidding wars erupt, and suddenly, a coin that was once pocket change becomes a story of astonishing fortune. To truly appreciate its value, you need to understand the market. Condition is everything. A penny in pristine, uncirculated state will fetch far higher prices than one showing wear. Coins graded by professional services, those that examine every minute detail, often reach the highest bids. And even among collectors, the legend of the 1951 no-mint mark Lincoln penny has only grown. Stories of sales reaching hundreds of thousands, even over $1 million, are no longer whispers. They're documented, undeniable, and wildly inspiring. But beyond the money, there's the story of human wonder and persistence. Finding a rare penny isn't just about luck, it's about patience, knowledge, and a trained eye. It's about understanding that history can fit in the palm of your hand. When you finally hold a coin that the mint itself could not have predicted would survive decades, intact, in near-perfect condition, you're holding more than copper. You're holding a bridge to the past, a tangible connection to an era long gone. Here's how you can reset your attention and focus. Because every second counts when looking for this kind of treasure. Lay out a roll of pennies. Inspect each one under good lighting. Use a magnifying glass or a jeweler's loupe to study the date, the letters, the wheat stalks. Compare to high-resolution images online of verified 1951 no-mint mark pennies. Look for anything unusual, no matter how subtle. Even the slightest variation could be the difference between a coin worth pennies and a coin worth millions. Collectors often say that the thrill is in the chase. Every penny examined could be the one that changes everything. One coin can turn ordinary pocket change into a story of wealth, history, and discovery that you'll tell for the rest of your life. And the best part? You don't need a collector's vault or a lifetime subscription to coin magazines. This coin could be hiding right where you least expect it, in your drawer, in a jar, or even in the change you've been ignoring for years. So, take a moment and imagine it. That worn penny in your hand isn't just metal. It's a key to a story of astonishing value, a mystery that spans decades, and the potential to transform your life in an instant. Every detail matters. The shape of the numbers, the spacing of the letters, the tiniest irregularity in the wheat stalks. These are the clues that unlock $1 million secret. The 1951 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny isn't just a coin. It's a symbol of possibility, a reminder that ordinary objects can carry extraordinary stories. And as history has shown, those who pay attention, who know what to look for, can uncover life-changing treasure where others see only copper. Imagine a coin worth $1.5 million hiding in plain sight. You've walked past it hundreds of times, maybe even held it in your hand without knowing it. It's small, unassuming, and yet, for the right collector, it could change a life forever. This is not just any penny. This is the 1996 mint Mark Lincoln penny, a coin shrouded in mystery and astonishingly rare errors. And today, you might discover if one is hiding among your own change. The story begins in 1996, at the Denver Mint. Millions of pennies rolled off the presses every day, destined for pockets, wallets, and cash registers across America. Among them, a tiny number bore subtle mistakes, barely noticeable to the untrained eye. Most people wouldn't even think twice, tossing them into jars or letting them slide past in their spare change. But for collectors, these errors are priceless. Some of these pennies have sold for over $1 million. Yes, that's right, a single, ordinary-looking penny, worth more than a house in some parts of the country, quietly waiting for discovery. What makes the 1996 so special? It all comes down to errors, minting anomalies that only happen when things go slightly, almost invisibly, wrong. On this penny, the errors can be faint doubling on the date or the word Liberty. The D mint mark itself might appear unusually small or misplaced. These aren't dramatic mistakes. They're subtle, almost ghostly imperfections that experts call doubled dies or off-center strikes. But the rarity of these anomalies is staggering. Only a handful exist in top condition. And those that do? They fetch shocking prices at auction, sometimes reaching $1.5 million in pristine, certified condition. Now you might be wondering, how do you even identify one? Start with the date, 1996. Then look for the mint mark, AD for Denver. It seems simple, right? But the magic is in the details. Examine the letters carefully. Look for tiny doubling, almost like a shadow behind the original stamp. Check the date. Are the numbers slightly thicker, or do they appear ghosted? Inspect the edges, the lines, and the surface of the coin. You're looking for imperfections that make a common penny extraordinarily rare. A normal penny will pass by unnoticed. This one demands attention, a careful eye, and a little bit of luck. Even more fascinating is the story of the people who have found them. Some stumbled upon them in old coin collections, forgotten jars, or even pocket change. One lucky collector found a near-perfect specimen in a roll of pennies at a local bank, and it changed his life. Another inherited a small collection from a relative, never knowing that among the ordinary coins lay a penny worth millions. The emotional weight of discovering one of these coins is overwhelming. Disbelief, excitement, and even fear, because the moment you realize what you have is life-changing. Imagine holding it in your hand. You feel the smooth copper surface, the tiny imperfections, the whisper of history from the Denver Mint decades ago. Every detail matters. A minor scratch, a faint mark, anything that certifies it as authentic. Certified by professional grading services, these pennies become treasures that collectors fight over, sometimes bidding against each other in intense auctions. And the numbers are staggering. Sales have reported prices of $844,000 for high-grade versions. But the very best? The ones in near-perfect condition with the most obvious errors? They soar all the way past $1.50 million. It's a game of patience and observation. You have to slow down, look closely, and train your eyes to notice what most people miss. A standard penny is just that, standard. But these rare 1996 D mint mark errors? They are anomalies, waiting to be discovered by someone who can see beyond the ordinary. Every roll of pennies could hold a secret. Every coin jar could contain a fortune. And here's the twist: the coin doesn't announce itself. It doesn't sparkle or scream, "I'm valuable!" You might spend years collecting coins and never realize that the one that can change your life is already in your possession. Maybe it's in a drawer. Maybe it's in a jar. Or maybe it's still hiding in circulation, waiting to be spotted by the eyes of a patient collector. Even professional numismatists are amazed by the rarity. The 1996 D Lincoln penny is a coin that demonstrates how tiny errors, almost invisible to the casual observer, can transform something common into a treasure of unbelievable value. For anyone who dreams of discovering a life-changing coin, it represents hope, the tantalizing possibility that $1 million discovery could be right in front of you, hiding in plain sight. So here's what you do. Next time you handle pennies, pay attention. Look for the D mint mark from Denver. Examine the date closely. Check for doubled dies, misaligned letters, or subtle shadows. Handle each coin as if it might be the one. Because in the world of coin collecting, patience and attention to detail are rewarded in ways most people never imagine. One coin, one error, one perfect specimen can literally mean a fortune. Collectors often describe the feeling as indescribable. The heartbeat quickens. The mind races. The years of collecting, the jars of coins, the countless searches, all come down to a single moment of recognition. And when it's certified and valued, you're holding something more than money. You're holding history, rarity, and a tangible reminder that extraordinary value can hide in the most ordinary places. Remember, these pennies aren't everywhere. They're rare. And the ones in top condition? Even more so. That combination of scarcity, condition, and mint error is what drives the astonishing prices we've seen, including sales of up to $1.5 million. For some, this penny is more than a collectible. It's a symbol of luck, timing, and the thrill of discovery. So, as you go about your day, think about the pennies you encounter. The ones you toss aside, the ones you overlook. Among them could be a coin that carries the legacy of the Denver Mint, the thrill of a subtle error, and the promise of a life-altering fortune. The 1996 D Mint mark Lincoln penny is real. Its value is proven. And it's waiting for the next person who can see what most people miss. But for those who know, this penny is nothing short of legendary. The story of this penny begins in 1979, a year when millions of these coins were minted and circulated across the United States. Most were ordinary, destined to jingle in pockets or disappear into piggy banks. But among them, a small number emerged with a unique characteristic: the absence of a mint mark. To the untrained eye, it looked identical to any other penny. Yet collectors knew better. This tiny detail transforms it from a humble piece of copper into a coin worth millions. What makes this coin so extraordinary is not just its rarity, but the incredible demand among serious collectors. There are fewer than a handful of these 1979 no-mint mark pennies known to exist in top condition. The U.S. Mint never intended for these to be rare. These coins were supposed to bear a D for Denver or a P for Philadelphia. But a few slipped through the production lines without the mint mark, creating a hidden treasure that would be chased for decades. Now, imagine holding one in your hand. The weight feels ordinary, the design familiar. Abraham Lincoln's profile stares back, just as it does on every penny minted that year. But the truth lies in the smallest details. The absence of the mint mark is subtle. It sits just below the date, a tiny omission that could easily escape notice. This is the moment where most people miss it, and why so many fortunes remain undiscovered in drawers and jars across the country. Collectors who have discovered this penny describe a mix of disbelief and exhilaration. The emotional impact of realizing that something you've casually owned could be worth millions is overwhelming. One top condition example sold privately for a staggering amount, nearing $1.6 million. That's not just money, it's life-changing, a complete transformation from the ordinary to the extraordinary. If you want to identify this coin, start with the basics. Examine the date, 1979, and look carefully just below it. If there's no mint mark, it could be the real deal. But be cautious. Many circulated pennies can mimic the appearance, so attention to detail is crucial. Look for clean lines, sharp features, and a strong strike. Coins with wear or scratches are far less valuable, even if they are missing the mint mark. For the most serious collectors, professional grading is essential to confirm authenticity and maximize value. The journey to find one of these pennies is almost as dramatic as its story. Imagine sifting through rolls of change, visiting garage sales, even digging through old coin collections from decades past. Each coin you pick up could be the one, the moment when your life changes forever. Every penny becomes a possibility, every drawer a potential vault. The suspense builds with each flip of the coin, each examination under a magnifying glass. Even seasoned collectors admit that spotting this coin feels like a mix of intuition and luck. You have to know where to look and what to look for. The missing mint mark isn't a glaring omission, it's subtle, easy to miss if you're not paying attention. But the reward is monumental. A coin that many dismiss as ordinary is, in fact, a ticket to a multi-million-dollar dream. Stories abound of collectors who stumbled across the 1979 no-mint mark penny in the most unexpected places. Some found it hidden in old jars of pennies passed down from grandparents. Others discovered it tucked in the change drawer at work, overlooked for decades. These moments of discovery are filled with shock, disbelief, and ultimately joy. The emotional impact of realizing you've just touched a piece of history, an immense value, is indescribable. But this penny isn't just about wealth. It's a symbol of possibility, a reminder that extraordinary things can be hiding in the most ordinary places. It teaches patience, attention to detail, and the thrill of the hunt. Collectors often describe it as a once-in-a-lifetime experience, a mix of history, rarity, and potential fortune. If you're serious about finding one, start examining pennies from 1979 with care. Use a magnifying glass, check under good light, and focus on the area beneath the date. Every detail matters: the depth of the strike, the clarity of Lincoln's features, the absence of the mint mark. Even among these rare coins, condition is king. A pristine example can reach prices no ordinary penny could dream of. The allure of the 1979 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is timeless. Decades after it was minted, collectors are still chasing it, still willing to pay unimaginable sums for a single example. And the truth is, it could be sitting quietly among your own coins right now. Unnoticed, overlooked, yet potentially worth millions. This is the coin that reminds us that treasure isn't always buried. Sometimes, it's just waiting for someone who knows how to look. Every flip, every glance, could reveal a fortune. The suspense, the possibility, the thrill of discovery, it's what makes this penny legendary. So the next time you reach into a jar of pennies, pause. Look closely at each coin from 1979. Examine the date. Check beneath it for a missing mint mark. Handle it gently. You might be holding a piece of history, a coin that could change your life forever. One that has already astonished collectors and commanded prices beyond imagination. One small coin, tucked away in a pocket or forgotten in a jar, quietly hiding a fortune of $1.7 million. It sounds impossible, but this is exactly what a 1950-60 Lincoln penny can be, a life-changing treasure hiding in plain sight. The story of this penny begins decades ago, in the bustling mints of America. In 1956, the Denver Mint produced countless Lincoln pennies, coins destined for everyday transactions, pockets, and cash registers. Most of them were ordinary, destined to fade into the background of history. But a few were struck differently, carrying subtle errors, minute anomalies that would one day elevate their value beyond imagination. These coins were never meant to stand out, yet they did. Collectors speak of them in hushed tones, referring to rare die varieties and doubled dies. These anomalies are tiny, almost invisible to the untrained eye, but they can make all the difference between a common penny and $1 million coin. The 1950-60 Lincoln penny carries a rare combination of characteristics: a strong, sharp D mint mark, sometimes doubled or misaligned, paired with a crisp strike on Lincoln's profile. These are the details that can send a penny's value soaring into the stratosphere. Picture a dusty old coin jar, a forgotten collection on a shelf, a pocket change pile on a counter. Among them lies a coin that could transform someone's life overnight. This is where the mystery deepens. Unlike other rare coins, the 1950-60 Lincoln penny is unassuming. Its copper sheen, its familiar Lincoln design, could fool anyone. Yet, in the right hands, with careful examination under magnification, it reveals its secrets: tiny die cracks, subtle doubling, and minting quirks that instantly make it extraordinary. You might be wondering, how do you spot this penny before it disappears into the hands of seasoned collectors and auction houses paying millions of dollars? First, look for the D mint mark. It should be crisp and centered, not blurred or weak. Then, study Lincoln's profile, the lines in his beard, the rim of the coin, the date itself. Slight deviations, doubling, or striking errors can indicate the rare varieties. These coins are not always perfect in appearance. In fact, many are circulated, worn, and overlooked, which makes the discovery all the more thrilling. Every time a coin like this appears on the market, it sends shockwaves through the coin collecting community. Auction records show staggering prices, with pristine examples sometimes fetching over $1 million. Yes, a single, small copper penny made decades ago can command sums that most people only dream about. And it's not just the money, it's the thrill of discovery, the awe of holding a piece of history that is recognized by collectors worldwide as a gem of unimaginable value. The 1950-60 Lincoln penny is more than a coin, it is a symbol of possibility. It reminds us that treasure is often hidden where we least expect it, waiting for someone who knows how to look, someone patient enough to notice the subtle differences, someone ready to recognize opportunity when it whispers in the quietest corners of everyday life. If you want to find one, pay attention to detail. Examine every penny you own. Use a magnifying glass or a jeweler's loupe. Compare the mint mark carefully. Look for the tiniest irregularities. Often, the difference between a common penny and $1 million coin is barely perceptible. A slight doubling of the mint mark, a minute die crack, or a subtle misalignment of the date. These tiny imperfections, invisible to most, are what make this coin priceless. Imagine the moment you finally spot it, that surge of disbelief, the heart-pounding realization that the coin you've casually held for decades is worth more than most people will ever earn. It's the ultimate treasure, hiding in plain sight, and it has the power to change your life forever. This is why collectors obsess over details, study every coin, and never overlook a single possibility. The story of the 1950-60 Lincoln penny also carries a sense of nostalgia. It is a relic of post-war America, a time of growth, hope, and everyday life. To hold this coin is to touch the past, to feel the connection between generations, and to appreciate the artistry and craftsmanship of the United States Mint. But more than that, it's a reminder that even the smallest objects can hold unimaginable value if you know what to look for. Collectors who discover this coin often report a mix of awe and excitement, a sense of standing on the edge of history. Auction records and market sales have proven that, in top condition, this penny can sell for astonishing amounts, with some reports reaching as high as $1.7 million. That's right, a coin that fits in your hand can hold the equivalent of a lifetime's worth of savings, waiting to reward those with knowledge, patience, and attention to detail. So, if you have old coins stashed away, if you've inherited a jar of change, if you're sorting through decades of pennies, don't dismiss them. The next coin you examine could be the one that changes everything. Look closely, study the mint mark, inspect the date, and be ready to recognize the subtle anomalies. In the world of coin collecting, patience and attention to detail are not just virtues, they are the keys to unlocking unimaginable fortunes. Every time you check your collection, you have the chance to be part of that rare moment when ordinary becomes extraordinary. To hold history in your hand? To touch a coin worth millions of dollars? The 1950-60 Lincoln penny is waiting for someone to notice it, to appreciate it, and to realize that sometimes, the greatest treasures are hiding where you least expect them. You might think this is impossible, a fantasy reserved for rare collector stories, but it's very real. This isn't just any penny. This is the 1955 Mint Mark Lincoln cent, a coin with a mysterious flaw that has made it one of the most sought-after treasures in numismatics. The story of the 1955 penny begins over 6 decades ago. The United States Mint was operating at full capacity, churning out millions of Lincoln cents every day. Most of these pennies were ordinary, destined for everyday transactions. But hidden among them were a select few with a dramatic difference: a doubled die. What does that mean? It's a minting error so subtle yet so powerful that it transforms a mere copper coin into a priceless artifact. Imagine the mint workers, unaware, pressing dies into metal planchets. One misalignment, one small mistake in the process, and a legend was born. The obverse of the coin, the side with Lincoln's profile, shows an unmistakable doubling. Look closely at the date, 1955, and the words, Liberty. If you have the right coin, the numbers and letters appear doubled, like a ghostly echo. This error wasn't caught, and millions of ordinary pennies went out into circulation, leaving only a handful of these unique treasures behind. Finding one of these pennies today is like searching for a needle in a haystack. Collectors across the country have spent years scanning rolls of pennies, sifting through their change, hoping to uncover that glimmer of history. And the rewards can be staggering. Some of these pennies have sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars, and in top condition, they can fetch a shocking $1.8 million. Yes, a single penny, more valuable than most houses. But how can you tell if you've stumbled across this hidden fortune? Start with the basics. Examine the date, the numbers. 1-9-5-5 must appear visibly doubled. Not just a faint shadow, real, clear doubling. Next, the word, Liberty, above Lincoln's shoulder also shows the doubling. It almost looks like 2 impressions were stamped in a single strike, a rare error that collectors dream about. Hold the coin under bright light, or use a magnifying glass. The difference is undeniable once you know what to look for. Every collector who discovers a 1955 doubled die feels a rush that's hard to describe. It's not just about money, though of course, the financial reward is incredible. It's about history, about holding a tangible piece of the past in your hand. It's about connecting with a moment frozen in time, a fluke of production that turned a common penny into a legend. Stories abound of people finding these pennies in the most ordinary places, in a drawer, in a jar of coins passed down from grandparents, even in a forgotten wallet. One moment, it's just change. The next, it's a treasure worth a small fortune. And because of their rarity, these pennies have captured the imagination of collectors worldwide. Auctions have seen record-breaking bids, with enthusiasts vying to add this miraculous coin to their collections. But the 1955 double die penny isn't just a collector's curiosity. It's an inspiration. It reminds us that extraordinary things can be hiding in plain sight. That luck and persistence can reward the patient and the observant. That sometimes, the simplest things, a penny in your pocket, can hold unimaginable value. And for many collectors, this penny represents a dream realized. The thrill of discovery, the joy of owning something truly rare, the story of a coin that changed lives. Now, imagine holding one yourself. Visualize the copper gleam, the faint doubling of the date, the echo of Lincoln's face. Every scratch, every mark tells a story. And if you're lucky, this coin isn't just a historical curiosity. It's a life-changing discovery, a tangible piece of American history worth millions of dollars to the right buyer. Even if you've searched your coins before, don't give up. These pennies are elusive but persistent. Sometimes it's the coin you pass by in your own change that turns out to be priceless. The difference between an ordinary day and a life-changing moment could be as simple as holding a coin up to the light. So, take a look at your collection, check your drawers, dig through old jars of pennies. Examine each coin carefully. Focus on the date and on Lincoln's profile. Look for that ghostly doubling, that subtle but unmistakable sign that you might be holding a 1955 double die. This is more than a coin, it's a ticket to history, a reminder that incredible things can be hidden in plain sight, waiting for the right person to discover them. Imagine walking into your kitchen, reaching into your jar of spare change, and finding a coin that could instantly change your life. One small, copper penny, seemingly ordinary, hiding a secret worth over $1 million. That's exactly the reality for the 1978 D-Mint Mark Lincoln penny, a coin so rare, so elusive, that collectors across the United States are still searching for it. Most pennies you see every day are common, almost invisible. They jingle in your pocket or vanish under your couch cushions without a second thought. But among these millions of ordinary coins, the 1978 D. Lincoln penny quietly exists, a hidden treasure that could turn an ordinary person into a millionaire overnight. Its story begins in the United States Mint in 1978, a time when pennies were everywhere, yet few imagined that a simple minting variation could become so extraordinarily valuable. The D. Mint mark, stamped at the Denver Mint, seemed like a small detail. To the untrained eye, it was just another letter, a tiny mark on the face of Abraham Lincoln. But for collectors who know the secrets of rare coins, that D is a key to a fortune that could easily reach $1 million in top condition. What makes this penny so rare? Unlike mass-produced coins, a very small number of 1978 D pennies were struck with subtle errors that make them virtually priceless today. These errors are not obvious at first glance. Some show doubled features, faint misalignments, or slightly off-center mint marks that only the sharpest eyes can spot. These imperfections, the very mistakes that most would discard, are exactly what make this coin a potential million-dollar treasure. Identifying this penny requires patience, careful observation, and a keen eye for detail. First, check the date and the mint mark. The 1978 date must be crisp, clear, and fully intact. Then, focus on the D mint mark. Look closely for any anomalies, doubling, misplacement, or unusual thickness. Examine Lincoln's profile. Some coins show slight doubling along the lines of his coat or the lettering on the coin's surface. These subtle signs can indicate that you've found one of the rarest pennies in existence. Imagine holding it in your hand. You feel its weight, the smooth edges, and the subtle copper sheen. It's easy to think of it as just another penny, but to a collector who understands its value, this coin is not just metal, it's a key to unimaginable wealth. Recent sales of top-condition examples have stunned the coin world, reaching prices as high as $1.1 million. One small penny, once overlooked, now worth a sum most people only dream of. But finding it isn't just about luck, it's about knowledge. Learn to differentiate it from the millions of 1978 pennies minted that year. Check the color and texture of the copper. Genuine high-grade examples retain a rich, reddish hue. Look at the edges for sharpness, where can reduce value dramatically. And most importantly, verify it with a professional coin grading service if you suspect you've discovered one. Mistakes can be costly, but the right expertise can confirm $1 million find. Collectors have spent years scouring rolls of coins, searching through jars, even sifting through old collections in attics and basements. Each coin has a story, a hidden history, and the 1978 D penny is no exception. Its journey from the mint to your pocket could have spanned decades, passing unnoticed from hand to hand, waiting for the moment when someone finally realizes its true worth. There's an emotional pull to these coins, the thrill of discovery, the suspense of holding a potentially life-changing item in your hand. Every twist of fate, every second of examination could reveal a fortune hidden in plain sight. It's the excitement of possibility, the whisper of millions waiting to be claimed, that keeps collectors awake at night, searching through piles of coins for that one miraculous find. Even today, many Americans have unknowingly walked past this treasure. It could be in a drawer, a jar, a wallet, or even mixed into loose change at a local store. And the more people realize its rarity, the more intense the hunt becomes. Stories of collectors suddenly transforming their lives with one lucky coin fuel the dream that anyone, anywhere, could hold the key to millions. The 1978 D. Lincoln penny teaches a simple, powerful lesson. Sometimes the most extraordinary treasures are hiding in the most ordinary places. With careful observation, knowledge, and a bit of luck, you could turn a tiny piece of metal into a life-changing fortune. The coin's rarity, its subtle errors, and the sheer suspense of discovery make it one of the most sought-after pennies in the world, a symbol of hope for coin collectors who dare to dream. So next time you reach for spare change, pause. Look closely. That dull coin at the bottom of your jar could be more than it seems. Inspect the date, study the mint mark, check for doubling, and imagine the story behind it: decades of history, a journey from the mint to your hand, and a potential payout that could exceed $1 million. But what if I told you that among the coins jingling in your pocket or sitting in an old jar, there could be one hiding a secret worth over $1 million? Yes, one simple, copper coin could change your life forever. The 1964 D Lincoln penny doesn't look like much. It's small, worn, maybe a little tarnished. But beneath its familiar face lies a mystery that has captivated collectors for decades. This is not just a coin, it's a key to a fortune many only dream of. Back in 1964, the United States was in the midst of great change. The world was shifting, and pennies were being minted at the Denver facility with one slight, almost imperceptible difference. Only a few were struck with a rare misalignment and die variation, and those few would become the stuff of legends. These pennies were not widely publicized. Most people, oblivious, spent them in their daily lives, handed them to cashiers, or left them in jars at home. Only a handful survived in pristine, uncirculated condition, and today, these survivors are what experts consider priceless, some selling for as much as $1.2 million in top condition. So, how do you spot one of these hidden treasures? First, look at the mint mark. The D on the 1964 penny is your first clue. But not every 1964 D is extraordinary. The magic lies in the details: the depth of the mint mark, the spacing between letters, and the sharpness of Lincoln's features. In rare examples, the die produced a penny with slightly doubled features, stronger definition in the date, or unusual rim characteristics. Hold the penny under a bright light and examine it closely. Notice the tiny differences that set it apart from thousands of ordinary coins. The eye of a collector trained in subtle variations can see the difference instantly, a detail that could be worth millions of dollars. Collectors have spent years, even decades, hunting these coins. Imagine the thrill of finding one in your change, tucked between dimes and quarters, completely unnoticed for 50 years. Many of these coins were discovered in attics, old wallets, and forgotten piggy banks. The excitement of holding a coin that could be valued at over $1 million is unlike anything else. But it's not just the value, it's the story behind it. Each penny carries a piece of history. The hands that minted it, the decades it survived in circulation, the lucky chain of events that kept it intact. When you find a 1964 D in exceptional condition, you're not just holding money, you're holding a connection to a moment frozen in time. Now, imagine the moment you realize you've found one. Heart racing, hands trembling, the realization hitting you: this tiny coin in your palm could be worth life-changing money. Every line, every detail on the coin could add up to a fortune many would never see in a lifetime. And the market proves it. Rare 1964 D pennies have sold in auctions for as much as $1.2 million. Million-dollar bids, fierce competition, and collectors on the edge of their seats. The right coin in the right hands can turn a modest collection into a historic windfall. Even if you're new to coin collecting, you can start today. Learn to spot mint marks, study die variations, compare your pennies with reference guides, and always check for unusual features. Every small step brings you closer to the possibility of holding something extraordinary. Remember, time is against most coins. The older they get, the fewer remain in mint condition. Every drawer, jar, or forgotten collection could hold a piece of history waiting to be discovered. The 1964 D Lincoln penny is more than just metal. It's a story, a treasure, and an opportunity wrapped in one. So, next time you reach into your pocket or sift through a dusty box of coins, look carefully. Examine the mint marks, check the details, and pay attention to anything unusual. You might just be holding a rare gem that could make headlines in the coin collecting world. This isn't just any penny. This is a 2007 D Mint Mark Lincoln penny, a coin so rare and so valuable, collectors have paid up to $1.3 million for a single flawless example. One small mistake at the mint, one tiny variation, and suddenly, this humble penny becomes a treasure beyond imagination. The story begins at the Denver Mint in 2007. Millions of pennies were produced that year, lining up in neat rolls, ready for the hands of unsuspecting Americans. Among them, however, a handful were struck with an error, a mistake almost invisible to the untrained eye. Perhaps it was a doubled die, a misaligned strike, or an off-center press. These coins were never meant to exist. Yet here they are, quietly slipping into circulation, waiting to be discovered. Imagine holding one of these coins. At first glance, it's a standard 2007 D penny. Coppery, familiar, ordinary. But something about it catches your eye. The letters on Liberty seem heavier, or maybe, In God We Trust, looks slightly stretched. Perhaps the date itself has a faint doubling, a ghostly echo of numbers repeating ever so subtly. These are the clues that turn a simple penny into a $1 million find. Collectors who know what to look for can spot these errors in a heartbeat. The key is in the details. First, check the mint mark, the small d, just below the date. On a genuine 2007 D-era penny, this D may appear slightly thicker or offset. Next, inspect the letters carefully. Hold the coin under a bright light, tilt it, and watch for tiny shadows or raised edges. These are the signs that you may be holding something extraordinary. And finally, examine the surface itself. Does it look like it was struck with slightly more pressure in certain areas? Does it feel different to the touch? These subtle differences are what make a penny valuable beyond belief. The thrill of finding a penny like this isn't just in the money. It's the story behind it, the mystery, the history, the almost impossible odds of owning something so rare. Imagine sitting at your kitchen table, rolling through a handful of pennies, and suddenly one glints differently in the sunlight. Your heart skips a beat. You pick it up, examine it, and realize that you may have just found a coin that collectors dream about for decades. One single mistake at the mint, one tiny imperfection, and you could be holding a piece of history, and a ticket to $1 million. People have spent lifetimes hunting for these coins, scouring flea markets, garage sales, and dusty coin rolls. Some have found them hidden in jars passed down from grandparents. Others discovered them in the change from a coffee shop or at the bottom of a purse they hadn't opened in years. And yet, the odds are astonishingly low. Only a few hundred of these era pennies are believed to exist in circulation, making each find not just rare, but practically miraculous. What's remarkable is how easy it is to miss. To the untrained eye, a 2007 D penny is just a penny. But to someone who knows the subtle signs, the doubled die, the tiny irregularities in the letters, the unusual strike marks, it's a golden ticket. A single glance can reveal $1 million treasure. Imagine realizing that the coin you just set down on the counter, thinking it was worth 1 cent, could fetch more than $1 million at auction. It's a reality that seems impossible, yet it's true, and the excitement doesn't stop there. Owning a penny like this isn't just a financial windfall, it's a piece of history. The errors tell a story of the minting process, of the human element behind the machinery, of tiny moments that created something rare and unique. Every scratch, every doubling, every irregularity is a testament to the coin's extraordinary journey from the mint to your hands. Collectors often describe the feeling as indescribable, a mix of disbelief, exhilaration, and awe. To know you're holding a coin worth more than a house, more than a car, more than most people earn in decades, all in the palm of your hand, it's a sensation few ever experience. And the best part? Anyone can discover one. It could be in your pocket, your desk drawer, or in that jar of old coins you forgot about. The thrill is in the hunt, the shock of discovery, and the potential for life-changing value. So, how can you find one? Start by inspecting your 2007 D pennies carefully. Use a magnifying glass, examine the mint mark, look for subtle doubling on the date or letters, and trust your instincts. Sometimes the most ordinary coins hide the most extraordinary secrets. Keep an open eye, be patient, and remember, These coins were never meant to exist. That's what makes them worth millions. And when you do find one, the excitement, the rush, and the potential reward is unimaginable. Millions of collectors search tirelessly, hoping for that one miraculous find. And yet, most of these pennies pass unnoticed, spent in vending machines, tucked into jars, or lost in the shuffle of everyday life. But one lucky person, perhaps you, could stumble upon a 2007 D-era penny tomorrow, changing the course of their life forever. Because when a penny like this appears, it isn't just a coin, it's a story, a mystery, a fortune. A single moment, a single discovery, can transform ordinary change into unimaginable wealth. This is the magic of coin collecting. It's not just about money, it's about possibility. Every coin holds a secret, and every secret has the potential to be life-changing. So keep searching, keep looking, and never underestimate the pennies you pass by. Among them may be a treasure worth more than you ever imagined. Because one of those coins, one of the plain, ordinary brown pennies, might secretly be worth $1.4 million. And the craziest part? Most people would never even notice it. This is the story of the 1944 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny, a coin so deceptively normal, so unbelievably rare, that collectors compare finding one to winning a hidden lottery you didn't even know you were playing. But before we dive into what makes it valuable, picture the world in 1944. America was in the middle of World War II. Copper was being rationed for the war effort. The mint was producing coins under pressure, rushing, adjusting equipment, switching materials. Mistakes didn't just happen, they slipped through in ways nobody discovered until decades later. And somewhere in all that chaos, an ordinary-looking penny was struck that shouldn't even exist. A penny that would one day be worth over $1 million. Now here's where things get interesting. Most 1944 pennies were made of copper, nothing special. You see them in collections every day. But a tiny number of 1944 pennies were mistakenly struck on leftover steel planchets, the silver-gray metal blanks used for the 1943 pennies. These 1944 steel errors were never meant to leave the mint. They shouldn't have survived. And yet, a few did. Imagine the suspense of this. For over 70 years, these pennies traveled through pockets, drawers, jars, and change machines, hiding in plain sight, blending perfectly with everyday life. Someone may have used one to buy a cup of coffee. Someone may have dropped one in a parking lot. Someone may have tossed one into a piggy bank without ever realizing they just let $1 million treasure slip through their fingers. But what makes the no-mint Mark version so fascinating is that it was struck in Philadelphia, the largest and busiest mint in the country. With millions of coins produced daily, the chance of an error slipping through was higher. And that's exactly what happened. A few steel planchets got mixed with the new 1944 copper supply, and the presses hammered them into coins that looked completely different once you knew what to look for. That's where you come in. Because if you know how to identify one, you instantly gain an advantage over everyone else searching. And here's exactly how to tell if your 1944 penny is the rare steel version. First, check the color. A real 1944 steel penny has a silver or gray appearance, not the usual brown or reddish copper tone. It looks almost like a dime at first glance. If your coin is copper-colored, it's almost certainly the common version. But if it's silver, don't panic, don't clean it, don't scratch it, just breathe. Next, do the magnet test. Grab any household magnet and hold it over the coin. Copper pennies won't react at all. But a steel penny? It jumps to the magnet instantly. That pull is the first sign you may have found something incredible. But the real confirmation comes from the weight. Steel pennies weigh slightly less than copper ones. If you have access to a scale that measures in grams, a copper 1944 penny weighs around 3.11 grams. A steel one weighs closer to 2.7 grams. That tiny difference can mean the difference between 1 cent and $1 million. Let's reset for a moment. Imagine what that kind of discovery would feel like. One moment you're holding a penny. The next moment, you're holding a life-changing coin worth more money than most people earn in years. That shock, that twist of fate, that wild rush of hope, that's why collectors never stop searching. Because one unbelievable moment can change everything. The auction history on these coins proves that. Every time one of these 1944 steel pennies appears on the market, collectors go into a frenzy. One specimen sold for well over $1 million. Another sold for hundreds of thousands, even with minor wear. These aren't myths or rumors. These are documented sales, the kind that shake the coin world and make people tear open every old coin roll they can find. But the real mystery is this: how many are still out there? Only a few confirmed examples are known, but experts agree that others are hiding somewhere, in old collections, forgotten piggy banks, boxes in attics, estates that haven't been sorted. There might be one in your own home without you even knowing it. That sense of the unknown, the possibility, is what keeps the hunt alive. Now here's another reset. Picture a moment years from now. You're watching an auction, heart pounding, as your coin is placed on the block. You hear the bids climbing higher and higher, past hundreds of thousands, into the incredible territory of $1 million territory. And you remember the day you found it. You remember how ordinary that day seemed. That feeling, that maybe you were meant to discover something extraordinary, is what collectors live for. But let's talk about the emotional side for a second. Collectors aren't just chasing money. They're chasing stories. Stories like the 1944 steel penny that survived a world war, survived the mint's strict standards, survived decades of circulation, and ended up in the hands of someone who recognized its value. These coins are pieces of history, accidents of fate, and symbols of perseverance all wrapped into one tiny piece of metal. And you, right now, might be closer to that story than you think. Because all it takes is one overlooked coin. One curious moment. One spark of intuition to check again. So here's what I want you to do. After this video, grab your jars of change, your old coin albums, the boxes your parents or grandparents saved. Look through every 1944 penny you can find. Check the color. Test the magnet. Feel the weight. Don't assume it isn't rare just because it looks ordinary. Ordinary is exactly how $1 million treasures hide. In the world of coin collecting, lightning doesn't strike once. It strikes for the person who's prepared, the person who looks twice, the person who listens to that inner voice saying, "What if?" That voice has led countless collectors to unbelievable discoveries. And it can lead you to yours, because the 1944 no-mint mark steel penny isn't just a rare coin. It's proof that incredible things can slip through the cracks of history, unnoticed for decades, waiting for the right person to come along. Yes, one of the most astonishing treasures in American pocket change history isn't gold, isn't silver, and isn't locked behind glass. It's a 1982 D. Lincoln penny. And almost no one knows why. Most people never look twice at a penny from the early 80s. They seem too new, too common, too boring to hold any real value. But deep inside the year 1982, something happened. Something unexpected. Something that created one of the rarest modern coins ever discovered. A mistake so subtle, so easy to overlook, that even seasoned collectors have thrown these pennies back into circulation without realizing what slipped through their fingers. Before we get into that secret, picture this: you're sorting spare change on a quiet evening. The TV is on, the room is calm, and your hands are moving on autopilot. Then your fingers pause. A single penny feels different. You don't know why yet, but something about its weight, its color, maybe even its sound when it hits the table, it pulls your attention. You lean closer. And slowly, you realize you might be staring at the exact coin every collector dreams of finding. Let's reset here. Because this is where the story turns mysterious. In 1982, the US Mint made a massive change that most people never noticed. For decades, pennies had been minted from a heavy copper alloy. But in '82, the mint switched to a lighter zinc core with a thin copper coating. The transition didn't happen all at once. They produced both types for part of the year. That's already unusual. But the real shock came later, when collectors realized a few coins somehow escaped the rules entirely. A handful of 1982 D pennies were minted in the wrong composition, struck from the old solid copper blanks when they were supposed to be zinc. It shouldn't have been possible. It wasn't listed, announced, or even acknowledged. These coins simply slipped into the world by accident, lost, forgotten, and mixed into everyday circulation. And for years, nobody knew. Another reset. Now imagine being the person who finds one. These copper transition errors have fetched staggering prices, hundreds of thousands of dollars in top condition, with experts estimating a potential value reaching as high as $1.5 million if the perfect specimen surfaces. Yes, you heard that right, $1 million territory, for a single penny small enough to disappear under your car seat. But how do you know if you have one? How can an ordinary collector, sitting at home with a few jars of change, identify a coin that could turn their life upside down? Here's the key: the weight. A genuine 1982 D copper penny should weigh about 3.11 grams. A regular zinc penny? Just 2.5 grams. That tiny difference, barely more than half a gram, is the gateway to possibly discovering a $1 million treasure. All you need is a simple digital scale, the kind you can buy for under $10. Place the penny on it. Watch the number appear. If it reads 3.10, 3.11, maybe 3.12, that's when your heart should start racing. But weight isn't the only clue. Listen closely. Copper pennies ring with a distinct, crisp tone when dropped on a table. Zinc pennies sound dull, almost flat. It's a sound you can't mistake once you've heard both. Collectors have described the copper ring as the moment everything changes. When an ordinary evening becomes a moment you'll never forget. Let's reset again because your attention matters here. This isn't just a story about metal. It's a story about timing, rarity, and luck. Only a few examples of the 1982 D copper transition error have ever surfaced. Some collectors believe more are out there, quietly hiding in old coffee cans, junk drawers, estate sales, forgotten coin jars, or even mixed into bank rolls waiting to be opened. And every year that passes, fewer people check. Fewer people look. But the value? It just keeps climbing. Now imagine this: you walk into a coin shop carrying a penny that cost you nothing. The dealer sets it on a scale. His eyes widen. He leans in for a closer look. A quiet moment hangs in the air, heavy with possibility. Then he tells you the truth: this is one of the rarest modern U.S. coins ever discovered. A coin that experts have speculated could cross the $1 million threshold under the right conditions. Suddenly, everything you thought you knew about pocket change changes forever. Let's bring your attention back again. Because here's the emotional core of this story: treasure doesn't always come from ancient history. You don't have to be a millionaire, a world traveler, or a professional collector to find something extraordinary. Sometimes the universe hides life-changing things in the most ordinary places. And the people who discover them? They're everyday Americans who simply took a moment to look a little closer. So here's your invitation. Check your drawers. Check your jars. Check every single 1982 D penny you find. Hold it, weigh it, listen to it, study it. Because the next time you pick up a penny, you might not just be handling a piece of copper or zinc, you might be holding a ticket worth life-changing money. This is the kind of story that becomes family legend, passed down for generations. The day someone in your house found a penny worth more than $1 million. And as you sort through your coins tonight, remember this: rare treasures aren't always ancient, and they're not always obvious. Sometimes they shine the brightest when the world thinks they're dullest. But what if that tiny, dull copper coin is secretly worth $1.6 million? What if the most valuable treasure you'll ever hold doesn't sparkle, doesn't shine, and doesn't come in a velvet case, but instead hides in the shadows of your everyday pocket change? Tonight, we're unlocking the mystery of the 1967 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny. A coin that looks like every other penny you've touched in your lifetime, but carries a backstory so strange, so unexpected, that most collectors still don't realize how rare the right one truly is. Stay close, because every detail you're about to hear might be the difference between missing a $1 million payday or finally discovering the coin that changes everything. Back in 1967, the U.S. Mint found itself under intense pressure. Coin shortages were sweeping across the country. People were hoarding silver coins, the Mint was rushing to meet demand, and in the middle of that chaos, something unusual happened with the Lincoln cent. To simplify production, the mint removed mint marks entirely. No D, no S, no P, just blank. And because of that decision, millions of pennies from that year look almost identical. But here's where the mystery begins. Not all 1967 pennies were struck the same way. Hidden among the ordinary coins are extremely rare early strike pieces, mis-struck varieties, and crisp proof quality errors that slipped into circulation without anyone noticing. Imagine that. A factory under pressure, coins flying down conveyor belts, inspectors overwhelmed, and a handful of stunning, perfect, or mistake-struck pieces escaping into the world. That's why today, collectors hunt 1967 pennies with a mix of hope and obsession. Because somewhere out there, a few of these coins have sold for jaw-dropping prices, including reports of elite condition specimens hitting the $1 million range. That's not fantasy. That's history quietly whispering. But let's reset your attention for a moment. Picture this. You're holding an old coffee can filled with loose change. You swirl it around. The sound is familiar, unremarkable. And yet, buried inside that pile, under nickels and quarters and the loose pennies you haven't counted in years, there could be a treasure that changes your life. So let's talk about how you can identify the right one. Because the difference between a normal penny and a $1 million rarity comes down to a few critical details most people overlook. Start with the date, 1967. No mint mark. That part is easy. Now, the key is looking at the strike. Rare pieces from this year show unusually sharp details. Look closely at Lincoln's beard, the texture of his coat, and the separation lines in his hair. A weak strike means a common coin. But a strong, deep, crisp strike points to a coin from the earliest stages of the die's life, and those coins can grade extremely high. Next, examine the luster. The rarest 1967 pennies almost glow. They have a swirling, original mint red or red-brown tone that hasn't darkened over the decades. If your coin still shines like it did when it was first struck, that's a powerful sign. Now here's the part most collectors never expect: errors. Look for doubled letters in the word Liberty, or on the date. Check for a slightly misaligned die, a ghost-like outline around Lincoln, or even the faint remnants of a die crack running across the coin. These errors transform an already desirable penny into a show-stopping rarity. And some of those error coins, in pristine condition, have been valued at hundreds of thousands, even creeping toward that astonishing $1 million mark. Let's pause again. Think about this. For decades, these pennies passed unnoticed through vending machines, pockets, and piggy banks. People used them to buy gumballs, newspapers, and cups of coffee. No one realized they were spending what could have been their greatest financial discovery. And even today, most people don't bother to check. But you're different. You're here because you know that fortunes are found not by accident, but by attention. Turn the coin over. Look closely at the Lincoln Memorial. On valuable 1967 errors, lines may appear doubled, or the pillars may look slightly thicker than usual. Sometimes the designer's initials, FG, appear shifted, faint, or oddly formed. All of these clues matter. All of them can be the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth a mountain of money. Here's another powerful detail: the overall condition. Grading is everything. A perfect grade 1967 penny is a unicorn, nearly impossible to find, yet not impossible. And collectors will pay life-changing amounts for one because it represents a piece of mint history frozen in time. More than one has shocked the coin world with sale prices soaring into the hundreds of thousands, even entering that $1 million territory. Just imagine holding a coin in that condition, knowing it's one of the finest survivors of its entire year. Reset your attention again. Because this next moment is the one that collectors describe as the heartbeat jump. You pick up a penny. You tilt it under the light. And for just a second, the shine hits your eye in a way that feels different. Rare. Important. That is the moment you realize the truth. The world's most valuable treasures are often the ones nobody pays attention to. You don't need a metal detector. You don't need an auction house. You just need curiosity, patience, and a willingness to look at the pennies that everyone else ignores. That's how discoveries happen. That's how ordinary people stumble into extraordinary moments. And yes, someone out there will find the next $1,000,000 penny. Someone will open an old jar, or empty a drawer, or inherit a box of forgotten coins, and inside that box, hidden in complete silence for decades, will be the coin that rewrites their story. Check every 1967 penny you have. Search for the strong strike, the glowing luster, the doubled letters, the tiny cracks, the flawless surfaces. Hold each coin like it could be the one, because one day, it might be. A tiny copper coin from 1979, stamped with a simple D mint mark, quietly becoming one of the most sought-after modern Lincoln cents ever discovered. And right now, someone in America may have one sitting forgotten in a pocket, a jar, or an old childhood collection. It could even be you. This story begins in 1979, a year most collectors overlook when hunting for valuable pennies. No massive minting error was announced. No shutdown, no crisis, no national headline pointing to anything unusual. And that's exactly what makes the 1979 D. Lincoln cent so mysterious. Its value doesn't come from being famous, it comes from being almost invisible. A treasure hiding in plain sight. Because a tiny handful, fewer than most collectors will ever realize, were struck using dies that produced an exceptionally sharp, deeply detailed coin. A strike so crisp you can see the smallest texture in Lincoln's hair, and the cleanest definition in every letter of the motto. These extremely rare early die-state coins, paired with flawless preservation, have turned the otherwise common 1979 D into a $1,000,000 dream find. And today, collectors believe only a few truly perfect examples exist. Imagine someone in Denver in 1979 standing at a vending machine, dropping a handful of freshly minted pennies into the slot. One of those coins could have been the ultra-rare early die strike that slept unnoticed in circulation for decades. That quiet mystery, how such a coin traveled through countless hands before surviving in near-perfect condition, is part of what gives this penny its legendary status. But here's the part that makes collectors' hearts pound. The highest reported market sales for pristine 1979 D. Lincoln cents have soared into six-figure territory, with estimates and private claims suggesting values climbing toward $1.7 million in the absolute top grade. $1 million is no longer a distant fantasy in the coin world, not when a single modern penny can reach that level. And with collectors hungry for the best of the best, prices continue to shock experts year after year. Now, reset your attention for this next part, because if you're watching this, you need to know exactly how to identify the real treasure. Start with the mint mark. Look for a clean, well-shaped D under the date. Weak or smeared mint marks won't cut it. The valuable examples show a sharp, confident strike. Then move to Lincoln's profile. Under strong light, examine the hair above his ear and along the top of his head. On the elite, high-value coins, the strands appear crisp, almost sculpted, with no flattening from a worn die. The cheekbone and jawline should show definition, not softness. Check the lettering next. Focus on the word Liberty. On rare early die coins, the edges of each letter stand tall, squared, and flawless. No rounding. No weakness. And the motto "I in God We Trust" should show clear separation in every letter. Even the thin points of the W. Flip the coin over. The memorial building on the reverse must show sharp lines in every column. Look especially between the columns. On rare examples, you can even see interior lines that disappear on average strikes. The stairs at the center of the building should be crisp enough to count step by step. And of course, condition is everything. The coins worth unbelievable sums, even touching $1 million territory in high-grade speculation, are the ones graded mint state 67, 68, and above. No spots. No scratches. No fingerprints. No dullness. It has to look like it was struck yesterday. Reset again. Because here's the twist collectors rarely expect. The reason this penny becomes so valuable isn't just condition. It's survival. Out of the hundreds of millions struck in Denver that year, almost all went straight into circulation. Kids spent them on candy. Adults dropped them into parking meters. Banks mixed them into rolls for years. Nearly every single one was worn down by life. Only a microscopic fraction survived untouched, protected, and preserved by pure luck. And it's that impossible survival, that random miracle, that creates million-dollar coins. But there's another layer of mystery. Some experts believe a small group of 1979 Lincoln cents were struck using specially prepared dies, possibly early in the production run. These dies produced the razor-sharp details seen on the highest-graded specimens. Whether these dies were experimental, misassigned, or simply unusually well-prepared has never been fully explained. And because the mint never publicly acknowledged anything unusual, collectors are left with a puzzle that fuels fascination. Think about how many times you've handled a penny without a second thought. Think about the jars, the drawers, the old coffee cans in basements and garages across America. At this very moment, someone may own one of these ultra-rare 1979 early die-strike pennies without knowing it. They might be holding a life-changing fortune in the palm of their hand. Reset your focus once more, because now you know what to look for. Sharp details. Perfect surfaces. A strong D, crisp letters. Clean steps on the memorial. If you have rolls of old pennies, this is the moment to search. If you inherited a coin collection, now is the time to look. If you have childhood savings tucked away, this is your invitation to crack them open. Collectors everywhere dream of finding the coin that changes everything. And once in a lifetime, a coin like that appears not from ancient history or a famous rarity, but from a year everyone thought was ordinary. That's the magic of the 1979 Lincoln penny. The treasure nobody expected. The secret hiding in plain sight. But what if I told you that one of the most ordinary-looking pennies in American history, a 1965 Lincoln cent with no mint mark, has been reported in private sales to reach as high as $1.8 million. And the most shocking part, it doesn't look rare at all. It hides in plain sight, blending in with pocket change, drawers, jars, glove compartments, and old piggy banks. Somewhere out there, someone has one of these million-dollar treasures and has no idea. For a moment, imagine the person who tossed it aside decades ago. Maybe a father emptied his pockets after work and threw it into a kitchen bowl. Maybe a teenager used it in a gumball machine. Maybe a collector spotted something strange about it but didn't realize just how rare it truly was. The year 1965 was chaotic for the U.S. Mint: coin shortages, metal composition changes, rising demand, and a frantic rush to keep America's currency flowing. Errors happened under pressure. And some of those errors were never supposed to reach the public. Now, let me pull you deeper into the mystery. Because the 1965 no mint mark penny isn't rare because of the missing mint mark, none of the pennies in 1965 carried one. The real rarity comes from mistakes, from anomalies, from die varieties created during a year when the mint was literally scrambling day and night. And that's where the million-dollar shock lives. These weren't fancy-proof coins or special editions. They were everyday workhorses. And a handful of them came out wrong, very wrong, in the kind of way collectors wait a lifetime to discover. Before I tell you exactly what to look for, picture this. A man walks into a small auction house with a coin he'd held onto since childhood. He thinks maybe he can get $20 for it. Maybe 50. He sits down, the room quiets, and when bidding opens, hands start rising, fast. The numbers skyrocket, not hundreds, not thousands, but hundreds of thousands, and then even higher. The coin sells for a price he never even imagined. Life-changing money for a penny most people wouldn't even stop to pick up from a sidewalk. That's the kind of story collectors whisper about. And it's why the 1965 penny has become the center of intense speculation, secretive private sales, and a growing belief that the rarest ones can break the million-dollar mark again. But here's where things get exciting for you. If you want to know whether the 1965 penny in your home could be the one that turns everything upside down, you'll need to watch for a handful of clues, subtle, sneaky, and easy to miss unless you know exactly what you're looking for. Start with the strike. Many of the valuable 1965 cents show unusually strong details on Lincoln's hair and beard. This can hint at early die strikes, made before the dies wore down. Collectors love sharpness. It's a sign of precision during a year of chaos. Then, check the reverse. Look closely at the letters in United, in States, in E pluribus unum. Some of the $1,000,000 varieties show doubling, faint but unmistakable if you tilt the coin under a bright light. Doubling on the reverse of a 1965 penny is one of the biggest indicators of rarity. Now slow down here, because this part matters. Pay attention to the date. Some extremely rare 1965 pennies exhibit what collectors call a transitional error, a coin struck on the wrong planchet, possibly one intended for 1964 or foreign coinage. That means the weight might be slightly off, the color a little different, or the thickness a bit unusual. If your 1965 penny feels lighter, heavier, or just off, don't ignore that feeling. Those tiny differences are exactly what turned ordinary pocket change into wealth beyond belief. Let me reset your attention for a second, because I need you to feel the significance. We're talking about one of the most unassuming coins in American circulation. No silver. No special markings. Nothing that screams rare. And yet some of these coins, in pristine condition and with the right errors, have stunned collectors by selling for over $1,000,000. Think about what that means: a simple penny, a coin literally worth 1 cent, transforming someone's entire life because they cared enough to look closely. And even now, after all these years, more of these coins are sitting forgotten. In jars. In drawers. In estates. In childhood collections untouched for decades. People assume the valuable coins are the shiny ones, the silver ones, the ones with dramatic designs. But in reality, the biggest discoveries often come from the coins no one pays attention to. Coins like the 1965 penny, silent, ordinary, waiting. Let me bring you into the real heart of the mystery. During 1965, the mint removed mint marks entirely to discourage collectors from hoarding coins. But that decision caused chaos inside the mint itself. Dies were reused longer than usual. Planchets were mixed. Old equipment collided with new demands. And somewhere in that storm, a handful of flawed coins slipped through. Some with dramatic doubling. Some with transitional planchets. Some with striking anomalies that experts still debate today. These are the coins that have made headlines, shocked buyers, and created stories that spark hope in collectors from coast to coast. If you're watching this, there's a good chance you're one of those collectors, someone who checks their change, someone who dreams that maybe, just maybe, the next coin they find will be the one. And that's why this coin matters. Because this isn't some impossible dream. Millions of 1965 pennies still exist. And hidden among them are the rare ones that could sell for astonishing prices. Prices that change futures. Prices that prove the miracles of coin collecting are very real. So let me reset your attention once more. Take a breath. Picture yourself at your kitchen table with a small pile of pennies. You pick up a 1965 cent. You tilt it under the light. You see something odd. Maybe doubling. Maybe a faint outline where the metal shouldn't be. Maybe it's just too perfect, too sharp, too crisp for a coin from a year of turmoil. In that moment, your heart jumps. Because you know, you might actually be holding one of the rare ones. One of the coins people search decades to find. And when the day comes that one of these coins breaks the $2 million barrier, when collectors and dealers lose their minds and the headlines explode, someone will be holding that coin with trembling hands, knowing they discovered something the world overlooked. Why not